Chapter 1053. At this moment, the 4 9th-level experts formed into a combat formation. They were filled with ferocious might. They dared to suppress even devil masters and were naturally confident. At that moment, a white-haired blood-robed old man lightly waved his sleeves. It seemed like a light breeze, but it was actually a killing move. After all, not every primal chaos expert loved close combat. For instance, in his previous life, Dongbu Shuang rarely engaged in close combat when he comprehended the mirage and illusory realm. Dongbu Shuang's expression changed slightly. His crimson cloud domain, which he had been maintaining all this time, instantly felt a very slight ripple. The white-haired, crimson-robed elder had merely waved his sleeve, and the ripple had instantly reached him. Even his crimson cloud domain had not been able to shift it away in time. Clearly, after the battle formation had reached the 10th level, it had naturally become even more extraordinary. Wang! The fluctuations instantly attacked. The 3 whirlpool stairs around Dongbu Shuaying's body forcefully blocked off 70 to 80% of the force, allowing the remaining force to invade his entire body, causing his body and soul to tremble violently. The 8th level of the Southern Cloud's sacred body was ultimately too weak in a battle at this level. Fortunately, Dongbu Shuaying's realm was high enough, and he had a deep understanding of voidification. Ordinary bloodline cultivators mainly relied on secret arts. On the other hand, Dongbu Shuang also cultivated the laws of profound mysteries. Even though his body was very weak, he was still able to use an extremely profound technique called voidification. After all, in his previous life, Emperor Jiuyun's inheritance and Walker's hidden secret placed great emphasis on voidification. He had once comprehended the scaled armor of General Mogu. At that time, he wanted to reach the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Unfortunately, not too long after he obtained the scale armor, he was forced to reincarnate against the sacred master. But in the aspect of voidification, his foundation was incredibly deep. By relying on the laws and profound mysteries, he was able to weaken the attack by 90%, allowing the Southern Cloud sacred body to resist against it. His body should be quite weak, but he managed to resist it. The old man in a blood-red robe gritted his teeth and waved his robe several times. Hoo. Although Dongbu Shuang could feel his body trembling, it did not affect his ability to fight. The Realm Heart Great Land is unlike the primal chaos void. There were even more combat methods here. So if you want to live, you have to make up for every shortcoming. Dongbu Shuang understood this point. Currently, his weakest aspect was his fleshy body. There was a gap of 2 levels between the 8th and 10th level Southern Cloud's sacred body. This was a qualitative gap. 2 levels usually resulted in a large-scale massacre. At this moment, regardless of whether it was White Cloud Devil Master or the 4 9th-level cultivators in the combat formation, they were all displaying the strength of a 10th-level cultivator. Die! White Cloud Devil Master didn't care about his reputation and launched a sneak attack. He opened his bloody mouth and was about to swallow him whole. Dongbu Shuang hastily dodged a few thousand li away. At the same time, the spear in his hand slashed out furiously. With a swing of the spear, it landed right next to White Cloud Devil Master's mouth. Hong Long, White Cloud Devil Master's body was not damaged at all. His body only trembled slightly, and his attack was affected. Boom! A thunderfire descended abruptly. Its speed was fast. Even though it could not match up to that ripple which had no gaps in between, Dongbu Shuang did not have the time to dodge. A thunderfire directly struck his body, though his body seemed to be in another world. The thunderfire then bombarded on the ground, causing a bottomless pit to form. I was attacked twice consecutively. Dongbu Shuang felt his body turning numb. White Cloud Devil Master had launched another sneak attack. Of the 4 9th-level cultivators, Chenyo finally commanded the entire combat formation to attack. Because the power of the combat formation had to be concentrated on one person before it could erupt with a 10th-level power. Hence, he could only attack in sequence. If he attacked at the same time, the power would be greatly reduced. A great axe appeared in Chen Nyo's hand as he hacked over. He was a close combat expert. Fortunately, the other two are slightly slower. Dongbua Shuang let out a sigh of relief. He had long understood the 9th level devils and knew what techniques they specialized in. Some techniques could not be dodged at all. Like his illusory realm technique and the destruction flower in the past, they could directly descend upon him. He could not evade them and could only endure them. This time, one of the 4 9th level devils specialized in the ripple annihilation technique. It was also an instantaneous attack that could not be dodged. That thunder fire had some hope of evading, but its speed was too fast, and this fleshy body of his was too weak. Hence, he did not have the time to move and was struck. But the following two were slightly better. Hong! 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 Chen Nyo commanded the combat formation and White Cloud Devil Master to engage in close combat. Their techniques were ever-changing, and they could coordinate with each other, greatly increasing their threat. Nonetheless, Dongbua Shuaying's figure was incredibly elusive. Furthermore, when he brandished his spear, there were many strange void rivers revolving around his spear. His spear was like a river, borrowing the force of the other party to fight against the other party. Despite fighting 1 against 2, he was fighting to his heart's content. Restrain! Chen Nyo retreated. It was a cold young man who commanded the combat formation. Hong! At that moment, a dark green snake condensed in an attempt to restrain Dongbua Shuang. I must not be restrained. Dongbua Shuang understood this point. The moment he was restrained, White Cloud Devil Master would devour him in a single gulp. That would be troublesome. The 4 experts in the combat formation had several killing moves of their own. At this moment, all of them were unleashing their peak 10th level power. They were coordinating with White Cloud Devil Master to kill Dongbua Shuang. And in the southern cloud capital, within the residence of the Fan clan. This strength is unquestionably at the 10th level. Fan Tianchong looked at the heaven observation mirror while praising in his heart. He grasped a 10th level technique in just 1.5 billion years. Even though there were many experts in the realm Heart Great Land and many formidable cultivation techniques, and the disciples he nurtured were amazing, he could be considered an absolute genius. He might be slightly better amongst the geniuses in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation and Myriad Realms Ancient Nation, but in the Southern Cloud Nation, he was the most heaven-defying genius in history. He is indeed displaying that Scarlet Cloud combat technique. But I wonder how far he has comprehended it. Fan Tianchong thought. He did not cultivate the void lineage after all. It was hard for him to make an accurate judgment just by relying on the heaven observation mirror. He had also transmitted this news to the inner circle of the clan. Very soon, a piece of news came from within the clan. According to my deduction, that spear in the hand of Yingshan Snow Eagle should be the Scarlet Cloud magic spear that Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master used in the past. He should have comprehended the Scarlet Cloud magic spear and pondered over these killing techniques. Currently, he has already displayed the 4 great killing techniques of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Since he has comprehended 4 of them, with his comprehension ability, he should have comprehended the 5th killing technique, the combination technique. Compared to the complete Scarlet Cloud combat technique, he is only lacking the Scarlet Cloud magic body. The Scarlet Cloud magic body was famous for being undying across myriad tribulations. But, he should have deduced his domain to the limit, reaching the 9th level power. By relying on the Scarlet Cloud magic spear, he could unleash the 10th level power. As for the other 3 great killing techniques, he could only reach the peak of the 9th level by relying on the Scarlet Cloud magic spear. With his comprehension ability, he should be able to comprehend the Primal Chaos Realm portion of the 5 great killing techniques of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique given sufficient time. That Scarlet Cloud magic spear is slightly wasted to him. Tianchong, try and see if you can buy the Scarlet Cloud magic spear from Yingshan Snow Eagle. Fan Tianchong pondered over the news transmitted from within the clan. The clan did not care too much about it. Because in the entire realm Heart Great Land, it was still the cosmos gods who determined the foundation of a superpower. Hence, the most precious portion of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique was the Cosmos God portion. Many Cosmos Gods did not have any formidable absolute arts and could only reach the 10th level strength. They were at the same level as White Cloud Devil Master and Dongbu Shuang. Wanting to become stronger? It was too difficult to learn the Cosmos God portion of a powerful absolute art. Cosmos Gods would usually be forced to rely on a huge superpower like the 6 great ancient nations. From then on, they would fight for the 6 great ancient nations. Only then could they obtain the profound portion. Just like the cloud scripture of the 10 holy scriptures, it could be imparted to others, though it was limited to the 10th level. Wanting to become more profound? Go and fight for my myriad realms ancient nation. That was equivalent to selling yourself. The moment one joined, he would be restricted by various secret techniques, making it hard for him to betray the nation. It is a waste to give the Scarlet Cloud magic spear to this Yingshan Snow Eagle. Fan Tianchong thought, such a powerful secret treasure can be given to Cosmos Gods who cultivate the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Summer Wind Ancient Nation. There were still a few Cosmos Gods who cultivated the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Of course, there was only one who cultivated it to grand perfection and was not any weaker than Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master in the past. He was a sacred paragon from the Tetsan clan, one of the 3 great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Strictly speaking, this sacred paragon was slightly stronger than Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master in the past. After all, he had experienced 2 War of the Ancient Nations, and currently, he had many more absolute art secret techniques and survival techniques. That sacred paragon did not need this Scarlet Cloud magic spear because he had already refined a powerful secret treasure suitable for him. But there were still several other Cosmos Gods who needed it in the ancient nation. I have to get it. But I can't snatch it openly. Fan Tianchong pondered, after all, he has a 10th level strength, and Southern Cloud King will definitely protect him. In the Southern Cloud Nation, there were 3 monarchs and 5 10th level conferred kings. These were the most important forces under the Southern Cloud King, and he was willing to protect them at all costs. He did not allow the Fan clan to snatch them away. If Dongbu Shuang was a weak conferred marquis, the Fan clan could snatch him away stealthily. I have to think of a way. Fan Tianchong thought. Within the bamboo house surrounded by a stream, the violet-robed girl, Qian Yishao, who was originally embroidering calmly stood there in a daze. The embroidery needle in her hand fell to the ground. What? Qian Yishao did not dare believe it. 10th level strength? Qian Yishao was startled. Her Qian Yi clan did not even have a 10th level strength in the Southern Cloud Nation. During crucial moments, they had to dispatch experts from the Moonflower Ancient Nation. 10th level strength, across the entire Black Devil Four Nations and Black Devil Great Lake, they were absolute experts. Even old Mother Yingshan dared to fall out with her Qian Yi clan. How could ordinary primal chaos experts dare to do so? That Yingshan Snow Eagle? He is so strong. Qian Yishao frowned. Currently, the Yingshan clan had 2 10th level experts. In the future, she would have to change her strategy when dealing with the Yingshan clan. As Dongbu Shuang fought with White Cloud Devil Master and the 4 9th level experts in a combat formation, various parties were carefully determining the strength of Dongbu Shuang according to the battle scene. No matter what, some of the surrounding nations understood that another 10th level expert had emerged. Chapter 1054. Black Devil Great Lake seemed to have the upper hand in attacking Dongbu Shuang, yet they were feeling bitter in their hearts. Devil Master, he has been attacking me. That spear technique is too strange, and I have been injured by more than 50% of my body. A cold teenager transmitted anxiously. Who? The spear in Dongbu Shuaying's hand spun. It was like a flood dragon, distorting the surrounding void. The spear was like a god dragon that could only see its head but not its tail. At times, the spearhead would appear in front of a primal chaos devil. A spear pierced out. Even though the surface of his body was protected by the combat formation, there was a strange vortex that converged at the chest of this cold teenager. This revolving void maelstrom was actually formed from many void fragments that tunneled into this cold teenager. It was also madly revolving and cutting at his body. Even though his body was recovering, it still consumed a portion of his life force. What a strange spear technique. White Cloud Devil Master was anxious. Previously, when Xue Fu and the other three formed a combat formation, they were easily killed by this strange spear technique that penetrated through the formation and killed 3 weaker primal chaos devils. Who would have thought that now that there are 4 9th level primal chaos devils and their combat formation has been greatly strengthened, this spear technique of his could still permeate through and injure Yin Fu. Go! Dongbui Shui Ying's figure was like a ghost. His spear spun and attacked time after time. With his void distortion technique, it was easy for him to escape. Why would he continue counterattacking despite being surrounded? It was because he wanted to force these devils to retreat. Otherwise, if he escaped, the devils would be able to slaughter and sacrifice as they wished. Old Devil Yin Fu has the weakest body amongst these 4 9th level primal chaos devils. I comprehended this piercing void based on the Scarlet Cloud God Spear. Even though the combat formation is obstructing it, it has merely weakened 30% of its power. The remaining 70% is enough to injure Old Devil Yin Fu. Dongbui Shuang thought, he won't be able to hold on for long. What a pity. According to the Scarlet Cloud God Spear, other than the Scarlet Cloud Domain, which could unleash a 10th level strength, the other techniques were at the peak of the 9th level. If this piercing void could reach the 10th level power, a single spear strike would likely heavily injure that Old Devil Yin Fu. 3 spears would be sufficient to take his life. These old devils were probably going to escape soon. Dongbui Shuang did not care that the enemy was difficult to deal with. Instead, he treated this as a rare opportunity. After all, this kind of life and death battle was hard to come by, and it would be beneficial to his spear skills. Only when fighting could one comprehend the various profundities of spear techniques. More than 70% of my body is injured, Old Devil Yin Fu transmitted his voice anxiously. I can't kill him. His domain is too difficult to deal with, and his spear technique is too powerful. The other old demons were also anxious. They were also using all sorts of methods to coordinate with White Cloud Devil Master. They wanted to eliminate this snow eagle before Old Devil Yin Fu could no longer hold on. Is it going to fail? White Cloud Demon Master looked at the ever-changing white-robed youth in front of him. He vaguely understood that if he couldn't win even with the help of the battle formation, then it would be even more impossible for him to win alone. Actually, once one's strength reached the 10th level, most of the time, it would be the other party who could not do anything to the other party. At this time, it was time to compete in absolute arts. The more powerful the ultimate technique was, the more incredible the technique would be. Originally, seeing that this snow eagle has cultivated for a short period, I was bullying him for not perfecting his strength. Who would have thought that he would fail in the end? White Cloud Devil Master sighed inwardly. A single 10th level, Scarlet Cloud Domain, had allowed Dongbui Shuang to maintain an undefeatable position. Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master was famous for being unafraid of group battles, and his void domain. Naturally, it was logical. Naturally, there were secret techniques that could break apart that Scarlet Cloud Domain, though White Cloud Devil Master was not qualified to learn them. I can't hold on any longer. I'm not resisting anymore. Old Devil Yin Fu transmitted anxiously. All right. The other 3 devils did not object. White Cloud Devil Master even waved his hand, causing an enormous cloud hand to envelop the 4 of them. The 4 of them did not resist and were directly kept into the Eden treasure. Religious Master, what should we do? White Cloud Devil Master directly contacted the 3rd-ranked Religious Master in the Black Devil Great Lake, Blood Devil Religious Master. The Black Devil Great Lake was split into 3 great factions. The 3 religious masters were all terrifying great devils that shook the entire realm Heart Great Land. Even the 6 great ancient nations had a hard time getting rid of them. White Cloud Devil Master belonged to the same faction as Blood Devil Religious Master. This Yingshan Snow Eagle's control of the void is incredibly formidable. He can completely entangle my true body. I can send my incarnation down and massacre the people in all directions, but he can also send his incarnation to rapidly keep the civilians into his Eden treasure. Furthermore, that Marquis Ardent Fire and others will definitely be sent out to take in the civilians. Furthermore, more than half the Unity Realm team I led would likely be killed. If we retreat, that Shan Snow Eagle should know when to advance and retreat. He won't force us. White Cloud Devil Master asked the religious master. Because he could not control the blood sacrificial magic bottle at this moment, even if he massacred the civilians, it would only be for the sake of venting his anger. But because Snow Eagle's control of the void was more formidable, he could only massacre a small portion of the civilians in the city. Retreat. Blood Devil Religious Master gave the answer. Yes. White Cloud Devil Master immediately accepted the order. Retreat. With that order, he transmitted it to all his subordinates. Yes. The many teams of Unity Realm devils scattered across the Ardent Fire City immediately began teleporting away. These Unity Realm devils could teleport a shorter distance, and it was naturally slower for them to retreat. White Cloud Devil Master stopped. Dongbua Shuang also stopped. He held onto his spear as he stood on a piece of ruins. Shan Snow Eagle, who would have thought that the blood sacrifice I hosted this time would fail in your hands? White Cloud Devil Master chuckled, with a 10th level expert interfering. It isn't wrong for the blood sacrifice to fail. In history, the Black Devil Great Lake had massacred several cities time after time. As the number of times increased, they would occasionally meet with trouble. For instance, a 10th level expert would coincidentally stay in this city temporarily, or a cosmos god from the 6 great ancient nations would coincidentally pass by this city. For the sake of his reputation, he would not allow himself to lower his head and would naturally intervene. Hence, the blood sacrifice would occasionally fail. You are from the Black Devil 4 nations, and I am from the Black Devil Great Lake. There will be opportunities for us to fight in the future. White Cloud Devil Master chuckled. Hua! His body abruptly dissipated. Following that, on the walls of the distant Ardent Fire City, many clouds condensed abruptly. The figure of White Cloud Devil Master appeared once again. Many Unity Realm devils were also gathering there. Dongbua Shuang watched from afar. By the side, the most important palace hall of the Southern Cloud's Sacred Palace had also opened. Chun Yue and the others walked out from within. They were watching from afar with some lingering fear. Fortunately, he did not go mad. Dongbua Shuang thought. If the other party were to vent his anger and massacre, close to half the civilians in the Ardent Fire City would die. Even though he could kill many Unity Realm devils, Dongbua Shuang did not like this outcome. Black Devil Great Lake, within a grand palace. The 3 religious masters sat high above. Third brother, the blood sacrifice you are in charge of has failed. The black-robed middle-aged male chuckled. Given their identities, they did not care about this bit of loss. After all, it was not too shameful for a 10th level expert to interfere in the process. Third brother, your temper is quite good. You actually did not order your subordinates to massacre. The smiling old man on the left chuckled. Big brother, second brother. The sickly pale green-robed male indifferently chuckled. Since you have lost, there is no need for you to massacre. Third brother is benevolent. The black-robed middle-aged male said. He understood that the benevolence of his third brother was not directed at those cultivators. Instead, it was directed at those batches of Unity Realm devils. Even though the 3 religious masters were protective of their own, only then would their subordinates be willing to follow them. Of the 3 religious masters, Blood Devil Religious Master was the most protective of all. This Shan Snow Eagle has such a formidable domain. His spear technique is formidable too. He could actually break the combat formation. Within this palace hall, the other cosmos gods and devil masters were discussing. Southern Cloud Nation, within the royal palace. Southern Cloud King watched as the battle proceeded. He watched as the devils on the side of White Cloud King retreated. A grin blossomed on his face. Ha ha ha, the civilians of this ardent fire city should thank King Shan Snow Eagle. He has saved this city and brought honor to my southern cloud nation. Chapter 1055. The Black Devil Great Lake failed in the blood sacrifice this time, and they had to leave with their tails between their legs. What a delightful feeling. Monarch Chun Yu laughed. Monarch Greedy Peng was grinning from the side. Previously, Yingshan Shuaying has been in closed-door cultivation, so he didn't manage to collect enough precious materials. According to what teacher said, Yingshan Shuaying's Southern Cloud sacred body is merely at the 8th level standard, yet he could execute the Void Shatter. Clearly, he didn't rely on the energy of the Southern Cloud sacred body to grasp this 9th level technique. Instead, he had truly comprehended this technique. It seems that with his realm, it is possible for him to grasp the 2 secret impartation techniques the moment his Southern Cloud sacred body reaches the 10th level grand perfection. Right. Everyone present nodded. By relying on the Southern Cloud sacred body, it was 10 times easier to grasp techniques at the same level. This was also the reason why this absolute art was so widely spread. With the eyesight of Southern Cloud King, he was able to determine with a glance that Dongbu Shuaying's Southern Cloud sacred body was merely at the 8th level. For him to grasp the Void Shatter and Realm Heart Blade without relying on the sacred body. The eyes of Southern Cloud King were filled with a strand of satisfaction. He praised, furthermore, the void domain he executed should have been comprehended from that secret treasure god spear. Both of them could reach the 10th level strength. That Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles has detailed guidance, making it easier for him. The moment his sacred body reached grand perfection, he should be able to grasp the 2 secret impartation techniques soon. Congratulations, teacher. Monarch Greedy Peng added, in the future, I will have an amazing junior disciple brother. When the other monarchs and conferred kings present heard that, they muttered inwardly. This Monarch Greedy Peng's reaction was truly fast. Yingshan Snow Eagle is an absolute genius of the Void lineage. If he were to become the disciple of the king, it should be possible for him to become a cosmos god. In terms of the Void lineage, few could compare with the king in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. It is his fortune that Snow Eagle could become the disciple of the king. Congratulations, king. Many of them said. Even old Mother Yingshan was congratulating by the side. They could see that Southern Cloud King was grinning from ear to ear. Clearly, he was happy about this. Southern Cloud King chuckled, ha, a teacher chooses a disciple, and the disciple chooses a teacher too. Even if I have the intention, I will have to see what Yingshan Snow Eagle thinks. After all, this battle would most likely be known by the surrounding nations. Even the Summer Wind Ancient Nation would know about it, and it would be inevitable for them to take the initiative to recruit disciples. Old Mother Yingshan understood in her heart. She immediately said, King, I'll go ask that child Snow Eagle and see what he thinks. Don't force yourself. Southern Cloud King said. After cultivating for 1.5 billion years, he had already reached the 10th level strength. Such an absolute genius expert could easily enter the core layer of any of the 6 great ancient nations and enter the biggest organizations in the 6 great ancient nations. The Black Devil 4 countries were most concerned about the Black Devil Great Lakes blood sacrifice. The Fiery Zhao Nation, the Maple Nest Nation, and the Snowhook Nation were already watching from afar through the sky observation mirror. That Southern Cloud King is too lucky. Why doesn't my Snowhook Nation produce a genius expert? It is highly possible to nurture one into the Cosmos God realm. By then, we will have another helper. Snowhook King sat cross-legged on a jade bed. There was an enormous pit at the center of the palace hall. Many venomous snakes and insects were currently devouring each other within. Snowhook King would occasionally throw some rare natural treasures into the pit, causing the venomous creatures to become even crazier. Such a small place like the Southern Cloud Nation could produce such a genius expert. He reached the 10th level after cultivating for 1.5 billion years. In the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, other than the 3 great clans that had transcendental statuses, there were many other clans too. Many of these clans relied on the three great clans, and some of these clans were not any weaker than the entire southern Cloud Nation. Naturally, they felt a sense of superiority when facing the southern Cloud Nation. There were not many who could earn their respect. Usually, only those like Old Mother Ying Shan who reached the 10th level could earn their respect. As for Southern Cloud King, after all, he was the sect master of one of the 10 great religions in the entire realm Heart Great Land. Many cultivators in the 6 great ancient nations worshipped Southern Cloud King. The appearance of Dongbush Shuang this time naturally attracted the attention of many. This cultivation speed was qualified to be ranked in the top 20 in the history of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Ardent Fire City. Within the Marquisdom. Even though there were some deaths and injuries in the entire Marquisdom, this lineage had been reproduced for 1 trillion years, and there were trillions of disciples. Currently, those who died were just a few. Only the loved ones and good friends of those who died felt sad. The atmosphere in the Marquisdom was incredibly lively. Many disciples were excited. They were excited about the stunning strength of Ying Shan Snow Eagle. I've heard that Prince Snow Eagle is about to become a conferred king. Conferred king. Isn't it a conferred marquis? Anyone who can get through the God Yuan Palace 9th level can become a conferred king. Prince Snow Eagle will definitely become a conferred king. Do you know who Prince Snow Eagle fought against previously? That is a Devil Master from the Black Devil Great Lake. Devil Master? A Devil Master from the Black Devil Great Lake? Discussions were going on everywhere. Occasionally, there would be cries of alarm. Devil Masters were existences that were slightly knowledgeable in the Black Devil formations. They had long heard of how frightening Devil Masters were. Any Devil Master could easily massacre an entire city and cause chaos in all directions. Many conferred marquises could be exterminated with a flip of a hand in front of a Devil Master. But Prince Snow Eagle could actually fight against a Devil Master? That was truly unfathomable. I have always set Prince Snow Eagle as my goal. But now, this goal is too high. Many aristocratic clan disciples in the Ardent Fire City were unconvinced when Dongbush Shuang was just born. They felt that so what if he was talented? They could still surpass him in cultivation. But now, they no longer had such thoughts. When the gap between them reached an exaggerated stage, they would no longer be jealous. They would no longer have the heart to compare. They could only look up to the other party. Fighting against a Devil Master. Devil Masters could fight against Cosmos gods. Prince Snow Eagle could do that? Unfathomable. Unfathomable. There was a commotion outside. Dongbush Shuang first accompanied his parents and sister to eat some food. They chatted for a while before going to the pavilion by the lake to meditate. Sitting under the pavilion with a spear placed on his knees, Dongbush Shuang closed his eyes to reflect on this battle. Even though the outside world was bustling with activity, and it was said that many people came to send gifts. Even quite a few clans in the southern Cloud Nation came to congratulate Dongbush Shuang on becoming a conferred king. Even though it had not been officially conferred, everyone knew that it was set in stone. Nevertheless, Dongbush Shuang did not personally go to meet them. With his current strength and status, he was qualified to do so. The reason why he did not wish to meet them was because his mood wasn't good. This time, not just the Marquisdom, but the citizens of the entire Ardent Fire City had suffered many casualties. Even though it was only 1,000th of the total population of the entire Ardent Fire City, thinking about how huge the population was, the number of deaths was still significant. After all, those teams of Unity Realm devils were able to kill groups of devils. Dongbush Shuang wanted to kill those devil teams too. But if he did so, he might infuriate White Cloud Devil Master, causing him to start a mad massacre. And then, Dongbush Shuang suddenly felt something. He turned over. Very soon, a figure appeared in midair. It was Old Mother Ying Shan. Snow Eagle. Old Mother Ying Shan laughed. Previously, she addressed him as little fellow Snow Eagle. But given his current strength, Old Mother Ying Shan naturally removed the little fellow title. Old Ancestor. Dongbua Shuang immediately stood. He was very respectful to Old Mother Ying Shan. You have truly frightened me this time. Old Mother Ying Shan chuckled. Me, the king, the three monarchs, and several other conferred kings have been watching everything that happened in the Ardent Fire City through the Heaven Observation Mirror. We wanted to save them, yet it was impossible for us to do so. We could only worry. But when I saw you act, I was frightened too. It is all thanks to Old Ancestor buying that spearhead for me. Dongbua Shuang said, otherwise, I would not be the opponent of White Cloud Devil Master this time. Without the spearhead. Even though the inscriptions occupied 90% of the spear body, it was ultimately incomplete, and comprehending it would be much harder. It was impossible for him to raise the Scarlet Cloud domain to such a level. After all, he had only grasped this technique not long before he came out of closed-door cultivation. Worth it. It is truly worth it. Old Mother Ying Shan said, that spear of yours is the weapon of Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master? Yes. Dongbua Shuang nodded, that spear body lacks a spearhead. That time when I visited the treasured goods market in the capital, I had sensed it and discovered that spearhead. No wonder. Old Mother Ying Shan was enlightened. She then added, oh right, the king has ordered that you will be officially conferred the title 3 days later. And then, Dongbua Shuang nodded. This was within his expectations. Also, the king has the intention of accepting you as a disciple. Old Mother Ying Shan mentioned the most important matter, this is a personal disciple. The king has only accepted a total of 5 disciples. If you were to take him as your teacher, you would be the 6th disciple. This personal disciple is different. The moment you take him as your teacher, you will immediately be bestowed with all sorts of benefits. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart stirring when he heard that. Southern Cloud King accepting a disciple? According to rumors, the Southern Cloud King would impart the Apex Survival secret technique that was worth more than the complete Scarlet Cloud combat technique, the Avatar technique. Chapter 1056. Avatar Technique. Dongbua Shuang was looking forward to it. He could not give up on the Realm Heart Great Land. After all, there were many experts here, and there were many absolute art scriptures too. Cultivating here would naturally be helpful. But after becoming a cosmos god, he wanted to return to his hometown Primal Chaos Void because he was afraid that something huge would happen there. To satisfy both sides, he could only leave behind an avatar in the Realm Heart Great Land and an avatar in the Primal Chaos Void. I guess that the Fan Clan from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation would take the initiative to invite you to join their Fan Clan. Old Mother Ying Shan said. Fan Clan? Dongbua Shuang was startled. Old Mother Ying Shan nodded, of the 3 great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, the other 2 do not care about the external nations. Only the Fan Clan is willing to make friends with others and attract talented disciples to join their Fan Clan. Your innate talent is too high, reaching the 10th level in just 1.5 billion years. You are ranked in the front even in the history of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. The Fan Clan will definitely come and invite you. Furthermore, the conditions they will give you are quite good too. You can decide who you want to join. Old Mother Ying Shan said. I am an inner disciple of the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. I can't join other superpowers, right? Dongbua Shuang said. To ordinary inner disciples, that is indeed the case. The moment they join another superpower, that would be equivalent to betraying the religion. They would be chased after by the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. But if you join the Fan Clan, things will be different. Old Mother Ying Shan sighed. In the surrounding nations around the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, no matter if it is our Black Devil 4 nations or the 9 northern nations of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, or even the other Tier 2 and 3 nations, even if they nurture a genius, the surrounding nations would not dare to say that the genius is betraying the religion when he joins the Fan Clan. Neither would they dare to chase after the genius. Instead, they would have to congratulate the Fan Clan. If you join the Fan Clan, the king would have to congratulate the Fan Clan too. Old Mothering Shan sighed, the Fan clan is too powerful. Just a clan is stronger than any other ancient nation like the Moonflower Ancient Nation and Towering Sky Ancient Nation. Their foundation is deeper too. Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly. He could feel the might of the Fan clan. Even an absolute expert like the Southern Cloud King had to obediently lower his head. He did not dare to offend the other party. After all, he could survive under the pursuit of the Fan clan, but others in the entire Southern Cloud Nation could not resist against the Fan clan. Unless he could be like the Snow Hook Monarch, who did not care about the life and death of his subordinates. Old ancestor, what do you mean? Dongbua Shuang looked at Old Mothering Shan. Let me give you a suggestion. Old Mothering Shan said, the king is even more generous. The moment you take him as a teacher and cultivate to the 10th level grand perfection of the Southern Cloud's sacred body, he'll immediately bestow all sorts of precious materials to you. This was worth 2 billion universe crystals. Moreover, during the process of cultivation, the king will also be more attentive towards you. In terms of external matters, he will try his best to help you. As for the Fan clan, after all, it was one of the peak organizations in Realm Heart Great Land. It had strict internal rules. He had to pay the price. But as you grow stronger, the Fan clan will also pay more attention to you. If your ambition is to become an ordinary cosmos god, then the king will be of greater help to you. The king is after all the sect master of one of the 10 great religions. He has many treasures and is willing to spend them on you. If you wish to become an apex expert across the entire Realm Heart Great Land, to reach the level of the king, you must even create an ancient nation and reach an unparalleled realm. The Fan clan will be of greater help to you. After all, the Fan clan has a deeper foundation, and the 3 great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation will also support one another. You can decide for yourself. Old Mothering Shan said. Old Mothering Shan felt slightly hesitant in her heart. If it was for the sake of the Ying Shan clan, Dongbua Shuang would naturally take the king as his teacher. For the sake of standing at the apex of Realm Heart Great Land, it would be better for him to take the Fan clan as his teacher. But the king was wealthy, and he could give Dongbua Shuang some external help. This was also considered a form of help. Even if I join the Fan clan, it shouldn't be that helpful to me. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. According to what I know, there are only a few in the entire Fan clan who could fight against the king. Naturally. Old Mothering Shan nodded. How hard is it to reach the level of the king? The Fan clan would at most give you some pointers and guide you with absolute art scriptures. Ultimately, you still have to rely on yourself. As for the king, he might not have any apex absolute art scriptures that are suitable for you. But he could give you some external help. Then I should still take the king as my teacher. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. Don't be in a rush to decide. Tell me your decision after you meet the people from the Fan clan. Old Mothering Shan advised, after all, this concerns your future cultivation. Being a cultivator, you have to be prudent at this moment. Early the next morning. It was foggy. Fan Tianchong personally came to visit. Under the pavilion by the lake, the two sat facing each other. Brother Tianchong, please. This wine smells fragrant. It makes my muscles and bones feel comfortable. Younger brother Snow Eagle seems to be someone who loves wine. Fan Tianchong sat down cross-legged. He immediately poured himself a cup of wine and tasted it. Good wine. Even though I have never tasted it before, it seems that there aren't any precious materials within. But it feels so comfortable. Dongbua Shuang indeed loved good food and wine. He had to taste it whenever he traveled around the world. Naturally, he had collected many good wines. This wine isn't expensive. A single cosmos crystal can buy 10 flasks of wine. It's fine as long as it tastes good. Fan Tianchong chuckled. I have something to say too. I am here on the orders of my clan. That old ancestor of my clan has nodded his head and is willing to take you in as a disciple. Ancestor Fan. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart tightening. Ancestor Fan, He was one of the unparalleled existences in the entire realm Heart Great Land. He could create an ancient nation by himself. All sorts of cultivation techniques he created were secret importation that would not be easily divulged to others. Even if one had 10 billion cosmos crystals, one could forget about getting a peek at it. He had 3 disciples who could fight against Southern Cloud King. For instance, Great Paragon Lu Tian was the disciple of Ancestor Fan. My clan's old ancestor has only accepted 15 disciples until now. Even I wasn't chosen by the old ancestor. Fan Tianchong sighed slightly. He was considered talented, but clearly, Ancestor Fan had a high standard. If you become a disciple of my clan's old ancestor, you will be able to obtain a secret importation that is most suitable for you, allowing you to reach the peak. Fan Tianchong said. What about others? Dongbua Shuang asked. Others? Fan Tianchong was startled. He could not help but retort, didn't you hear it clearly? This is becoming a disciple of my clan's old ancestor. What else do you want? He has already bestowed you with a secret impartation that leads you to the peak. As long as you cultivate according to the prescribed order, as you become stronger, my Fan clan will nurture you even more. In the future, it is not impossible for you to reach the same level as your Southern Cloud King. Is there an avatar technique? Dongbua Shuang asked again. Fan Tianchong's expression turned cold, don't go overboard. The rules of my Fan clan is that the weak are food for the strong. Everything depends on yourself. It is already amazing for you to obtain a secret impartation that leads you to the peak. You should know that some cosmos gods couldn't learn such a secret impartation even if they sold themselves to my Fan clan. As for the avatar technique you mentioned, as long as you contribute to the Fan clan, you can naturally exchange it for a corresponding secret technique. My Fan clan also has an avatar technique that you can exchange for. I have to rely on contribution points to exchange for it. Dongbua Shuang softly nodded. Troublesome. The avatar technique was extremely valuable in any superpower. It required a lot of contribution points too. It wasn't that easy for him, a 10th level expert, to accumulate sufficient contribution points. Unless you don't have the slightest bit of confidence to compete. Fan Tianchong roared, there are many experts in my Fan clan. As long as you climb up and display your brilliance, you will naturally obtain all sorts of benefits. You haven't even taken me as your teacher yet, you want this? The Fan clan was huge, but they could not casually squander it. Instead, it was the religion created by Southern Cloud King that became one of the top 10 great religions. Many cultivators across the entire realm Heart Great Land joined the Southern Cloud sacred religion, paying a huge sum of cosmos crystals. Hence, Southern Cloud King was qualified to be extravagant. I am confident. Dongbua Shuang shook his head inwardly. Even though he was confident. According to the value of the avatar technique, with how many experts there were in the Fan clan, he would most likely have to become a cosmos god before he could accumulate sufficient contribution points. He could not afford to waste time. The moment he became a cosmos god, he would naturally have to send his avatar back to his hometown. It is good that you are confident. Fan Tianchong revealed a grin, when are you prepared to follow me to the Summer Wind Ancient Nation? The first time was even better. Chapter 1057. This matter cannot be delayed. You have to hurry and pay a visit to Old Ancestor. Fan Tianchong said. He then sighed, I've cultivated for so many years, yet I've only met Old Ancestor once. You are lucky to be able to meet Old Ancestor frequently in the future. I really do not know what Old Ancestor sees in you. Isn't it because your cultivation is faster? But you are merely at the 10th level. Primal Chaos 10th level existences were absolute overlords in those Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations. But to Ancestor Fan, who stood high above, it was too difficult for him to accept a disciple. Many cosmos gods wished to take him as their teacher, yet it was impossible. Firstly, it depended on the disciple, and secondly on his mood. If he did not like it, he would be too lazy to accept any talented cultivator. Even though I am confident, I am ultimately a citizen of the Southern Cloud Nation. Dongbua Shuang said, old ancestor has misplaced his love. Misplaced? Fan Tianchong widened his eyes. He did not expect this outcome. Do you understand? Do you understand who my old ancestor is? What does it mean to take him as your teacher? Fan Tianchong could not help but retort, once you become the disciple of my old ancestor, you will be able to walk unhindered in the surrounding nations. Even that Southern Cloud King would not dare to slight you. Dongbua Shuang softly shook his head. I admit that Southern Cloud King is wealthy and has many treasures. He would most likely bestow quite a few to you. But those are external items. Fan Tianchong roared, treasures are easily obtained. Tao is something that cannot be obtained. Secret impartation techniques that lead to the peak are absolutely not leaked out. Just like how Southern Cloud King was chased like a dog in the past, fleeing in all directions just to survive. Brother Tianchong, you are too much. Dongbua Shuang frowned. Fan Tianchong could not help but retort, all right, I am indeed too much. But your king was indeed fleeing in all directions in the past. Eventually, he was fortunate enough to enter an ancient ruin and obtain the original copy of the Absolute Art Three Realms technique. He even obtained an extremely powerful secret treasure, the Twin Realm Blade. Only by relying on the Twin Realm Blade could he reach his current strength and status. Even though he obtained the Three Realms technique, that is a peak absolute art of the time lineage. You, Snow Eagle, are of the Void lineage and the Three Realms technique is completely useless to you. Do you know how precious a secret technique that leads to the peak is? Your king is lucky to have his current status. If you become my disciple, you will immediately obtain the most suitable secret technique for yourself. Fan Tianchong looked at Dongbua Shuang, now that you've rejected him, with my old ancestor's temper, it would be impossible for you to take him as your master in the future. I understand. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Fan Tianchong looked at Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang smiled, old ancestor, you're wrong. Sigh. Fan Tianchong shook his head lightly, anyway, I've said what I should say. I've treated you fairly, brother Snow Eagle. If you regret it in the future, don't blame me. Naturally, I don't blame brother Heaven Beloved. It's all my own decision, Dongbua Shuang said. Seriously, I really didn't know you. Fan Tianchong still couldn't help but mutter. Dongbua Shuang smiled calmly. Not paying respects to Ancestor Fan, the most important reason was because he wanted to learn the Avatar technique as soon as possible. Once he became a cosmos god, he would send his avatar back. The other reason was because old Mothering Shan had sent him that spearhead when he had just revealed his Unity Realm's 6th level strength. Old Ancestor was ultimately a 10th level expert. She might have accumulated some treasures, but most would exchange them for weapons that were more suitable for her. Hence, 10th level experts could be considered rich and poor at the same time. Like Dongbua Shuang, he was very rich. A Scarlet Cloud God spear was worth close to 10 billion cosmos crystals. But he was not willing to sell this spear. Other than this spear, he had very few other treasures on him. Fortunately, he had killed old Devil Shui Fu and 3 other primal chaos experts, allowing him to accumulate some treasures. Otherwise, he would still be poor. Hence, that spearhead was one of the reasons. Naturally, it was just a minor reason. If the Fan clan could directly bestow him with the Avatar technique, even if Dongbua Shuang felt guilty towards his old mother, he would still be willing to join the Fan clan. By then, he would use other methods to repay his old mother. It's a pity that the Fan clan was too cold and had strict rules. It was impossible for them to change their rules for a little fellow like him. In their opinion, it was already a huge favor for Ancestor Fan to be willing to accept him as a disciple. One had to know that the other 2 great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation were disdainful of outsiders. Regardless of how talented you were, they would not accept you. They would only accept those from their own nation. Southern Cloud Nation, Royal Palace. Southern Cloud King was currently seated cross-legged on a black grassland. The ground was filled with unique black weeds. Behind Southern Cloud King, there was a deep pool approximately 300 meters in size. The deep pool was filled with jade-green water flowing about. The surface of the deep pool was suffused with white frost that drifted in the surroundings. Ancestor Fan is actually accepting a disciple? Southern Cloud King frowned. He had many treasures and befriended many places. He had many connections in the 6 great ancient nations. He had even spent a huge sum to befriend many people in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, which was the closest to the Southern Cloud Nation. Ancestor Fan actually nodded his head and took the initiative to accept Snow Eagle as a disciple. This caused all sorts of discussions within the higher-ups of the Fan clan. They did not dare to retort against Ancestor Fan, and some of them reported this news to Southern Cloud King. A primal chaos brat. Even if he is talented, he is ultimately an outsider, yet Ancestor Fan actually took the initiative to accept him. Southern Cloud King felt slight disbelief. That group of apex experts in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation disdained the surrounding nations. Even though the Fan clan befriended many places, they still had a sense of superiority as they came from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Even those honored guests had joined the Fan clan. The Fan clan still discriminated against those honored guests. Ancestor Fan. Southern Cloud King became silent. He no longer had the confidence to accept Ancestor Fan as a disciple. King, Fan Tian Chong greets Snow Eagle. But Snow Eagle has still decided to take King as his teacher. Old Mother Ying Shan transmitted over to inform. She felt slightly unbalanced. After all, she had guessed that the Fan clan was recruiting Snow Eagle, yet not Ancestor Fan. Since Ying Shan Snow Eagle was determined to become a disciple of Southern Cloud King, she could not do anything about it. Southern Cloud King was slightly startled. This Ying Shan Snow Eagle worshipped him so much. He wanted to take him as his teacher. Was he too young and had not experienced too many setbacks? No matter what, it is a good thing. Southern Cloud King revealed a grin. Such a good helper would at least stay in the nation. Otherwise, the moment he entered the Fan clan, he would have to listen to the Fan clan's orders. I did not obstruct him. It is this Brett Snow Eagle who isn't willing to join your Fan clan. A grin appeared on the edge of Southern Cloud King's lips. This news was rapidly transmitted back to the Fan clan. It was also reported upwards to that Ancestor Fan. Ancestor Fan was currently sitting cross-legged beside a stream in a vast wilderness. His appearance was different from the eyes of different people. Some saw Ancestor Fan as an absolutely beautiful and enchanting woman. Some saw Ancestor Fan as a dignified old man. Or perhaps he was an adorable infant, or a towering stone giant that could cause the world to tremble with his breath, or a pure and holy compassionate being, all sorts of appearances. All of them came from the heart. Different hearts would see different things. Even in a place like the Realm Heart Great Land, he was an unparalleled existence who stood at the apex. He founded the Summer Wind Ancient Nation with 2 other old friends. He rejected. Ancestor Fan looked at the stream. The stream showed the scenes of Dongbush Shuang cultivating. It started from when he was a child, and everything was under the observation of Ancestor Fan. The strength he hid in the past was also seen through. Furthermore, Dongbush Shuang had cultivated the Tao of a mirage and illusory realm to the primal chaos realm. Naturally, it was under the observation of Ancestor Fan. His cultivation is so fast. Currently, he has cultivated both the void and the mirage and illusory realms simultaneously. Ancestor Fan chuckled, this brat should be allowed by Yuan to reincarnate into an external origin world. Reincarnation. This wasn't a secret to people at Ancestor Fan's level. Like the strongest ancient nation of the 6 great ancient nations, that Myriad Realms Ancient Nation, it was slightly stronger than the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Why was the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation named Myriad Realms? Because those few old fellows who created the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation had reincarnated from other origin worlds. In the beginning, some cultivators kept it a secret. But once their strength reached a certain stage, they could naturally publicize it. External origin world. He might have reached the cosmos god realm in his previous life. For him to obtain the permission of Yuan, his talent is not bad. Ancestor Fan did not care. So be it if he rejected Dongbu Shuang. He was merely interested in this matter for a moment. It was because he was similarly concerned about those external nations and was willing to absorb experts from all over the world. That was why he had the heart to have a look. And with a look, he discovered how different Dongbu Shuang was. Since he rejected Dongbu Shuang, then it was fine. Who? Ancestor Fan closed his eyes and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Reaching his level, accepting a disciple was purely based on his mood. The second watch had arrived. Chapter 1058. The Southern Cloud Nation was about to confer a new king. This was a huge matter for the entire nation. Many aristocratic marquis clans sent their higher-ups over to the capital. Even the conferred marquises and conferred kings either sent their true bodies or incarnations. On the day before the conferment. Let's go. We'll go meet the king. Old Mother Shan and Dongbu Shuang sat on the carriage. There were a total of 9 black magic dragons pulling the carriage. Every magic dragon was a magic servant that could erupt with a 9th level power. They were much more valuable than magic servant Zibai. A total of 9 magic dragons were pulling the carriage. In the entire Southern Cloud Nation, only the king could afford to do so. After all, a single magic dragon was sufficient for a conferred king like Old Mother Shan to sell all her treasures. Across the entire realm Heart Great Land, she was ranked at the forefront in terms of wealth. The king personally sent a carriage to receive them. Dongbu Shuang and Old Mother Shan soon arrived at the royal palace. They arrived at the place where the king usually meditated. Usually, only major matters would be received within the palace. For ordinary private matters, the Southern Cloud King would receive them at his meditation grounds. One could see that he treated Dongbu Shuang as one of his own. Ho! The 9 magic dragons roared. They charged down before coming to a stop. Dongbu Shuang and Old Mother Shan got off the carriage. The carriage immediately disappeared. The 9 magic dragons immediately swam away. They flew deep into the mountain peak behind Southern Cloud King that was shrouded in white frost. King! Dongbu Shuang and Old Mother Shan respectfully greeted. This was the first time Dongbu Shuang saw Southern Cloud King. Southern Cloud King was wearing a luxurious golden robe. He was thin and small as he sat cross-legged on the black grass. Even though he was thin and small, he vaguely seemed to be one with the surrounding void, causing others to feel subservient towards him. He is truly a legend amongst heroes. Dongbu Shuang understood that an expert who did not come from the 6 great ancient nations could cultivate to this stage without any secret impartation and relying on a powerful secret treasure. He even created a religion that became one of the top 10 great religions. His wealth was even spread across the entire realm Heart Great Land. Being so wealthy to this extent made even those old ancestors from the 6 great ancient nations envious. They had naturally acted against the Southern Cloud King before, albeit to no avail. They could only give up. Of the 10 great religions, 8 came from the 6 great ancient nations. One of them was the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion, and the other was the Sky Sword sect that was created by the Sky Sword King. That was why he could spread the Sky Sword sect so wantonly. Even though it was slightly more than what the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion did, the Southern Cloud Sacred Sect, it was still being suppressed by the 2 great ancient nations. That was why the Sky Sword sect could spread so wantonly. In terms of degree of spreading, it was slightly more formidable than the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. Nonetheless, it was ultimately squeezed dry by the 2 great ancient nations. In terms of wealth, it could not compare with the Southern Cloud King. In the past, Cloud Heaven King could resist wave after wave of slaughter and stabilized his position. Over the long years, his foundation had become even more unfathomable. Naturally, he remained low profile and befriended others. His true strength remained a mystery. I'm curious, why did you choose me as your teacher and not Ancestor Fan? Southern Cloud King chuckled. At this moment, there were 5 other figures standing by his side. They were the other 5 disciples of Southern Cloud King. All of them were looking at Dongbui Shuang. They were curious. Ancestor Fan was taking in a disciple? And this Yingshan Snow Eagle actually rejected him? I wish to learn the avatar technique as soon as possible. Dongbui Shuang directly stated. Avatar technique? Southern Cloud King softly nodded. The 5 senior disciple brothers and sisters by the side had different thoughts when they heard that. The avatar technique is the apex survival secret technique across the entire realm Heart Great Land. It is indeed hard to learn. As for teachers, they would directly impart it to their disciples. He seems to have a cautious personality. Is he afraid of death? He would most likely die before becoming a cosmos god within the Fan clan and not learn the avatar technique. They had different thoughts. But Southern Cloud King was merely curious. He did not care about Dongbui Shuaying's reason. He was not like Ancestor Fan who chose disciples based on his mood. Instead, Southern Cloud King hoped to get some formidable helpers. After all, not just stabilizing the Southern Cloud Nation or spreading the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, they required formidable experts. All right. Southern Cloud King nodded, kneel down. Yingshan Snow Eagle greets teacher. Dongbui Shuang immediately knelt down and acknowledged the other party as his teacher. Those who reached the pinnacle would always have to rely on Southern Cloud King to guide him in his cultivation of the Void lineage. In the entire realm Heart Great Land, few could compare with Southern Cloud King in the Tao of Void. Naturally, he was qualified to be Shuaying's teacher. Southern Cloud King chuckled and nodded. My sect has very few rules. There is only one rule, and that is to never betray the religion. Previously, you were merely an inner disciple and had merely learned the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles secret impartation. You know a lot about this absolute art, so it's not a big deal even if you join another faction. But now that you are my personal disciple, you cannot betray the sect. If you do, I'll not hesitate to pay any price to kill you. This disciple understands. Dongbui Shuang answered. Who would Southern Cloud King kill? Even if he could not personally kill the other party, given his wealth, he could easily invite unparalleled existences like Ancestor Fan to do so. All right. Southern Cloud King nodded. Flipping his right hand, 2 translucent scriptures appeared. These scriptures were covered in strands of golden light. Becoming my disciple, you can first learn the avatar technique and the destructive realm teleportation technique, these 2 survival techniques. Southern Cloud King said. The 2 scriptures floated in front of Dongbui Shuang. The destructive realm teleportation technique is a cultivation technique I created. As for this avatar technique, it was originally created by me and perfected with the help of one of the 5 ancestors from the Myriad Realm's ancient nation, Drifter. Dongbui Shuang received it. Hong. He extended his senses. At that moment, a large amount of light flew out from the scripture into the center of Dongbui Shuaying's eyebrows. Given the strength of his soul, he could easily memorize the 2 inheritances. Oh? Dongbui Shuang was slightly startled. It was fine if it was the destructive realm teleportation technique. In his previous life, he already knew of ultra-long distance teleportation. Actually, it was also the destructive realm teleportation technique. Even though the destructive realm teleportation technique was slightly different from the 2 origin worlds, the essence was the same. Shuang just read it once and immediately learned it. And the avatar technique was different from what he expected. This was an avatar technique. Shuang actually had to first master one of the 2 secret impartation styles of the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles, Arch Destruction. This style contained the strength of a 10th level expert. Only by mastering this style would Shuang be able to break through the essence of the void of this origin world and interact with the higher dimension. After that, he would absorb the energy from the outside world to cultivate his soul. Only then would he be able to execute the avatar technique. This should be different from the avatar technique of Mount Chimei. Dongbui Shuang thought. Mount Chimei was only at the 9th level strength, yet he had already mastered the avatar technique. Clearly, the two avatar techniques were different. Southern Cloud King had mentioned that it was he who first created it, and it was perfected by one of the 5 ancestors from the Myriad Realm's ancient nation, Drifter. Different entry methods, yet I can similarly cultivate the avatar technique. Dongbui Shuang praised inwardly. In the realm Heart Great Land, there are only a few who have inherited the avatar technique. Southern Cloud King looked at Dongbui Shuang. Even Cosmos gods wish to learn it, yet they have no way to do so. Even in the Fan clan, this is considered a top-notch secret technique. Southern Cloud King was slightly prideful. These are the materials required to cultivate the Southern Cloud 12 sacred body to the 10th level grand perfection. Southern Cloud King waved his hand again, throwing out a storage wristband. This was the norm. It was the same for every disciple. Properly cultivate. With your talent, you should be able to grasp the 2 secret impartation styles of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles very quickly. Also, this demonic dragon is for you to ride on. Saying that, he waved his hand. Ho, behind the deep lake, within the mountain range covered in frost energy, a black dragon flew out. It flew in front of Dongbui Shuang obediently. Saying that, he threw a blood-colored crystal ball to Dongbui Shuang. Dongbui Shuang understood that this was the core that controlled the black dragon. Even though magic servant Zibai had followed him previously, in reality, his master was old Mother Ying Shan. Magic dragon? Of the 5 disciples by the side, other than 2 who could maintain their calm, the other 3 had a slight change in expression. The previous bestowment was normal. Magic dragon, they were not bestowed anything when they took him as a teacher. This was an additional reward. A loyal and devoted magic dragon that could unleash strength at the 9th level was worth 1.5 billion cosmos crystals. How could they remain calm? The 3rd chapter. Chapter 1059. Thank you, Master. Dongbui Shuang was surprised. However, he still bowed respectfully. By the side, a grin appeared on old Mother Ying Shan's face. She felt that it was normal. Ying Shan Snow Eagle was the most dazzling existence in the history of the Southern Cloud Nation. Even Ancestor Fan took the initiative to accept him as a disciple. Southern Cloud King nodded. He turned to the 5 disciples by the side and indifferently chuckled. These are your 5 senior disciple brothers and sisters. I believe you should know them. The personal disciples of the king were naturally influential characters in the Southern Cloud Nation. The weakest was a conferred king, and they were all famous. Naturally, Shuang knew of them. Greetings, senior brothers and senior sisters. Dongbui Shuang said. The 5 people in front of him. The eldest disciple brother was Monarch Greedy Peng, and was also one of the 3 monarchs of the Southern Cloud Nation. Monarch Greedy Peng had followed the Southern Cloud King even before the nation was founded. He was loyal and devoted. That time, Southern Cloud King was also in a miserable state. Naturally, he remembered the old relationship and was extremely diligent in guiding Monarch Greedy Peng. He even used all sorts of treasures on Monarch Greedy Peng, allowing Monarch Greedy Peng to break through from the primal chaos realm to the cosmos god realm. Second senior disciple brother, Gongliang Yi, was at the 10th level. He was a rare Unity Realm 8th level genius from the Southern Cloud sacred religion. He was also a genius from the nation and had become the disciple of the Southern Cloud King. Senior sister Empress Ghostly was ranked 3rd. She was also at the 10th level, though she was slightly weaker than second senior brother. Fu Lingyun, Fu Lingxiao. This pair of brothers were ranked 4th and 5th. That time when the Southern Cloud King was in dire straits, the strongest person by his side wasn't Monarch Greedy Peng. Instead, it was another relatively outstanding 10th level expert, Fu Chen. Fu Chen followed the Southern Cloud King wholeheartedly. His relationship with the Southern Cloud King was that of a subordinate and a brother. After Fu Chen died, Southern Cloud King began nurturing the two children left behind by Fu Chen. When these two children reached the primal chaos realm, he even took them in as personal disciples. He did not hesitate to spend many treasures on them. Nonetheless, the talents of these two brothers were ordinary. Even if they used many treasures, they were merely at the 9th level. From this point, it could be seen that Southern Cloud King still cherished old friendships. Junior apprentice brother. The 5 senior apprentice brothers and sisters all smiled. In front of their master, they were all very warm and friendly. The next day. That was the day of the conferment. The title would be decided by him in advance, and he would just have to go through the motions when the time came. Most of them liked to use their own names as titles. He could even establish a clan and have his own name become the surname of the entire clan. When the time came, the title would be the name of the city and the name of the mansion. Therefore, some cultivators did not like to reveal their real names to the outside world. Therefore, Dongbua Shuang gave himself a simple title, Fei Xue. This was also a fake name that he used before, and it was also the name of the spear that he used when he was still a mortal. The entire Southern Cloud Nation was bustling with activity. The royal palace was filled with many kings and marquises. There were even experts from neighboring nations who came to congratulate the Southern Cloud Nation. Even though Dongbua Shuang did not like being in a crowd, he still went to meet the monarchs and kings and marquises. This time, there were quite a few cosmos gods who came from outside. As for the managers from some huge superpowers, there were even more. The 6 great ancient nations all had a few branches here. They were all families of some sort, and their origins were quite great. But cultivators still valued strength. Those who were not strong would have a low status within the great clans. Unless they were like the Crown Prince, who was the first child of the Southern Cloud King and was doted on. After the conferment, the Southern Cloud Nation began constructing the city, Fei Xue City. It became the city of Dongbua Shuang. After all, every conferment king would own a city. And being the 6th 10th level expert in the Southern Cloud Nation, his city was exceptionally big, on the same level as Yingshan City. Even if a large number of cultivators were sent to construct it, it would still take more than 100 million years. After all, the most difficult part of such a huge city was the construction of all sorts of arrays. In terms of the strength of the arrays, the moment Dongbua Shuang guarded the place and augmented by the arrays, ordinary cosmos gods would be beaten up by Dongbua Shuang. Before the construction of the city was completed, Dongbua Shuang would temporarily stay in the capital. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it had been 300 million years since the conferment. Southern Cloud Nation, Fei Xue City. The Fei Xue City had been constructed for a long time. Dongbua Shuang had also brought some people from the Ardent Fire Marquisdom over. They were mainly elites under the lineage of his father, Yingshan Lihu. They came over to help manage the Fei Xue City. Dongbua Shuang did not have the leisure to manage a city. Other than the Fei Xue City, he constructed another 9 cities. They were all guarded by the sleeping incarnations of Dongbua Shuang. Ha ha ha. Yingshan Lihu's days were more interesting. A huge city like the Fei Xue City involved huge benefits. And the affairs of this city master of Dongbua Shuang were usually handled by Rong Xinglan and Yingshan Lihu. Yingshan Lihu was naturally enjoying the limelight. Within a large-scale void god pagoda, Dongbua Shuang was currently cultivating within. He sat cross-legged on a huge rock floating in midair within the void god pagoda. His body was ordinary and did not emit any aura of an expert. This was the state of the 10th level grand perfection realm of the Southern Cloud sacred body. One had to know that even at the 10th level grand perfection realm, he had not reached the pinnacle in the voidification aspect. Reaching the pinnacle of voidification would allow one to become one with the essence of the void and completely disappear. Even powerful cosmos gods could not sense the slightest aura. Even though his aura was ordinary and reserved, in terms of voidification, he was still quite far from reaching the pinnacle of voidification. After all, the voidification undying technique of his teacher, Southern Cloud King, could only be cultivated after he became a cosmos god. At the primal chaos realm, there was no hope at all. I still have to create it myself. Dongbua Shuang did not give up. He had seen the scaled armor of the destruction devil, General Mo Gu, who had the shadowless talent. The inscriptions on that scaled armor were formed naturally. They were simple and mystical. Dongbua Shuang felt that it was entirely possible for him to cultivate it at the primal chaos realm. It's just that it was difficult to create it. Naturally, his current thoughts were not on the voidification aspect. Instead, it was the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Hong. With a thought, Dongbua Shuaying's body faintly emitted a faint light. Many deity inscriptions lit up on his body. This body of his was truly the darling of the void. He had fused deeper with the void than the Voidwalker in his previous life. Relying on the Southern Cloud sacred body, Dongbua Shuang finally succeeded in unleashing this fist. Hong. This ferocious fist was incomparably heavy. It seemed to bring along the entire void energy as it smashed out. Caw. He could not hear any sound at all. That was purely relying on the void to sense it. Dongbua Shuang was able to sense that 3 of the smallest black fog spherical particles that formed the essence of the void had directly shattered apart. At this moment, the place where the fist blasted out was vaguely horrifying. It felt as if it was connected to another horrifying world. Because the crack was too small, it could not be seen with the naked eye. But there was still a strand of mysterious aura transmitted in through the crack. Closely following that, the crack formed when the 3 spherical particles shattered immediately healed. That world. Dongbua Shuang saw it. This was the first time he saw it with such clarity. The arch-destruction had blasted apart the cage of this origin world. Even though the crack was so small that it could not be seen with the naked eye, Dongbua Shuang relied on that tiny crack to see it. By relying on the mysterious aura emitted from that crack, I can cultivate the avatar technique. Only then did Dongbua Shuang react. Nevertheless, he had been in a daze for a long time. That strand of mysterious aura had already dissipated. Chapter 1060. Standing on the floating rock, the surface of his body was faintly covered in light. He stabbed out with the Scarlet Cloud God spear in his hand. This stab seemed ordinary, yet it carried with it the power of the entire void. Eventually, it even caused the essence of the void to shatter, causing tiny cracks to appear where the spear had stabbed. It was indeed the weapon of Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master in the past. This stab caused the cracks to become several times bigger than before. It was too difficult to break the essence of the void and break the cage. Even Void Primogenitor from the Primal Chaos Void could not do it. Many cosmos gods could not do it. It was not just about power. Instead, one had to find the right direction. Just like the avatar technique, one could learn it at the Primal Chaos realm just by finding the right direction. Like Mount Chimay, it was like that. If one did not have any clues, even Sacred Master or Old Monster Stone could not create an avatar technique. It was the same for Arch-Destruction. This was an extremely exquisite usage of the Tao of Void. It was using the entire space around where one attacked. At the same time when that space could not withstand the force, it would eventually cause the essence of the void to collapse. Arch-Destruction was a 10th level technique. Actually, it was a simplified move from the same Tao path, and it was a 9th level technique, Void Shatter. Once it was simplified and weakened, it would be an 8th level technique, Smoke and Dust Scatter, similar logic. Spectacular Painting was also a secret impartation technique, and was a 10th level technique. When it was simplified, it would be a 9th level technique, Realm Heart Blade. The Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles, in reality, it was mainly based on 2 paths to go deeper. Spectacular Painting and Arch-Destruction were originally Cosmos God techniques. In terms of profoundness, they had surpassed any self-created moves by Dongbua Shuaying in his previous life. He could only barely execute them by relying on the 10th level Grand Perfection Southern Cloud Sacred Body. And these two techniques could still be deepened to become stronger, though only cosmos gods could learn them. The direction is right. A 10th level technique can break the cage. Dongbo Shuang relied on the tiny cracks formed by the shattering of the black fog spheres to look at the outside world. This look of his was also a strand of consciousness permeating in. The realm heart great land was vast. Dongbo Shuang saw an incomparably huge piece of land, and he also saw that there were many stars orbiting around the land. Furthermore, he could vaguely see another huge origin world beyond this realm heart great land origin world that was incredibly far away. Another source world? Dongbo Shuang softly nodded. Other than the primal chaos void and realm heart great land, there are other origin worlds. But Yuan actually allowed the absolute geniuses in the primal chaos void to reincarnate into the realm heart great land. It seems the realm heart great land should have a deep foundation among the many origin worlds. Dongbo Shuang thought. He performed Skybreaker again and again, and watched it again and again. Although he was shocked every time he looked at it, he was obsessed with the feeling of stepping into another level of life. However, he understood that he was still a life in the confinement, and he could only barely open a small crack. Many strands of mysterious aura permeated into the origin world from a higher dimension. Dongbo Shuang immediately activated the avatar technique. This technique was actually a soul's secret technique. It immediately began attracting those strands of mysterious aura towards his soul. They were absorbed by his soul and gradually fused into his soul under the guidance of the secret technique. At this moment, Dongbo Shuang felt his soul trembling. His soul was undergoing a transformation, though he vaguely understood that this was a good transformation. His body and the void seemed to be more compatible and comfortable. It felt as if he was born to be a part of the void. Because the crack was too small, and the mysterious aura that permeated in was weak, Dongbo Shuang merely cultivated for 10 days before he felt his soul could no longer improve. Hua! The white-robed Dongbo Shuang, who was seated cross-legged on the huge rock, suddenly had a blurred figure fly out from the surface of his body. He landed by the side and sat cross-legged. That figure was madly absorbing the world energy before condensing into a golden-robed Dongbo Shuang. Success! The two Dongbo Shuang exchanged glances. Even though they were two bodies, their memories were completely the same. But the newly condensed body was just an ordinary fleshy body. Without the Southern Cloud sacred body and the Scarlet Cloud god spear, it was impossible for him to execute 10th level techniques. My soul has absorbed too little mysterious aura, and the transformation isn't significant. Under the suppression of the supreme law, I can only form an avatar. Dongbo Shuang thought. He understood that the reason why he could not execute the avatar technique was purely due to the supreme law. But absorbing the mysterious aura outside the cage could allow his soul to evolve. This evolution was different from other lifeforms in the origin world. If not for absorbing the mysterious aura, even cosmos gods could not form avatars. And as this transformation improved, the number of avatars could increase too. The two avatars looked at each other. The golden-robed avatar was slightly weaker. According to Dongbo Shuaying's plan, he would not go out to fight and kill. Hence, he left the remnant energy of the realm heart order in the soul of the golden-robed avatar. After all, splitting the soul into two meant that the realm heart order could only choose one avatar. Even though the white-robed avatar was stronger, he was ultimately adventuring outside. Who knew when he would die? Cultivation knew no time. On one hand, Dongbo Shuang was researching the Tao of Void. He had already grasped the two secret impartation techniques. Naturally, he was comprehending the profound mysteries within the Scarlet Cloud God Spear and deducing the voidification. He had always wanted to reach the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. By researching on different aspects of the void, it would naturally be helpful for him to step into the cosmos god realm. On the other hand, he spent more than half his time cultivating the mirage and illusory realm. He had already reached the primal chaos realm in the mirage and illusory realm, and he was still improving. In his previous life, his realm was sufficiently high. Hence, he did not encounter any bottlenecks. He continued cultivating until he finally created a 9th-level mirage and illusory realm technique. He was still stumbling in the Tao of Void. After all, even though he had accumulated a deep foundation in his previous life, he could not create a 9th-level technique. Even though the mirage and illusory realm was slow at the start, it became faster as he cultivated until he created a 9th-level illusory realm world in one go. He had also researched through the 18 mirage and illusory realm scriptures he got, allowing his soul to be 3 to 4 times stronger than ordinary peak primal chaos realm experts. This was also a benefit that only cultivators who cultivated the Tao of Soul had. And the mirage and illusory realm was also a soul aspect. Under ordinary circumstances, this is the limit at the primal chaos realm. Dongbui Shuang thought. Unless I have a 10th-level secret technique or a powerful secret treasure of the mirage and illusory realm. Dongbui Shuang pondered. It was different from other Tao paths. The Tao of Soul was rarely seen. Like in the primal chaos void, Dongbui Shuang was the first to reach the primal chaos realm in the laws and profound mysteries system in the mirage and illusory realm. Even including the ancient cultivators, there was not a single cosmos god expert in the mirage and illusory realm. This Tao path was clearly harder to cultivate as compared to water, fire, lightning, particles, space, and many other Tao paths that one could sense. The mirage and illusory realm was purely a reconstruction of a world. It was akin to creating a new world, and its difficulty was incredibly high. Even the realm Heart Great Land, which had a deeper foundation. Any 10th-level mirage and illusory realm secret technique was a secret impartation that would never be divulged to outsiders. Its preciousness was not any less than other secret impartation techniques that led straight to the peak. Chapter 1061. The reason why it was so precious was because there were very few cosmos gods who cultivated the mirage and illusory realm. The other reason was that secret techniques in the Tao of Soul were too frightening. For example, the mirage and illusory realm. What did a 10th-level illusory realm represent? One had to know that a large number of 10th-level experts including Dongbui Shuang and Old Mother Ying Shan relied on external forces to reach their current level. For instance, by relying on the Southern Cloud Sacred Body or the Scarlet Cloud God Spear, he could at most unleash the power of the 9th level at the primal chaos realm. He had to rely on external items to unleash the power of the 10th level. The strength of their souls was about the same as the 9th level experts of the primal chaos void. There were very few of them, for example, Dongbui Shuang and others who had great achievements in the Tao of Soul, their souls would far surpass those of the same level. Otherwise, the strength of his soul would be limited. Even devouring the essence of chaotic origin or essence of blood spirit would not be as helpful to the soul as Dongbui Shuang, who had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the Tao of Soul. The essence of chaotic origin was an extremely powerful existence that could condense the essence energy within an origin world. It was similar to the origin world rock. Blood spirit essence. For example, the Black Devil Great Lake's blood sacrifice was for this purpose. It involved slaughtering countless lives and harvesting the most basic strand of energy from the souls of countless lives. After refining and transforming it, it finally condensed into blood spirit essence. Consuming it would greatly benefit one's soul. But the prices were extravagant. But the 9th level illusory realm world was sufficient to greatly affect many experts at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. The majority of them could only unleash 40% to 50% of their strength. Those with slightly weaker heart temperaments would likely fall into the illusory realm. As for the 10th level illusion, it was even more terrifying. Even Old Mother Ying Shan and the other experts with strong heart temperament could not resist against this illusory realm that could only be executed by cosmos gods. They could rely on treasures to reach the 10th level, but it did not mean that their souls could resist against this illusory realm. One could say that an absolute majority of 10th level experts would die before the 10th level illusory realm. They would either fall into oblivion or struggle to maintain a strand of consciousness, yet they no longer had the strength to resist. This was a heaven-defying move. Once the illusion appeared, Either his soul was strong enough to withstand it. Otherwise, if he couldn't take it, he would be done for, his life and death in the hands of others. 10th level experts were able to move unhindered across a region in the realm Heart Great Land. Even when facing cosmos gods, most could easily escape if they could not defeat them. But when faced with a terrifying technique of the soul path, it was defeated just like that. Therefore, this mirage and illusory realm secret technique was definitely a core secret technique of an area. Fortunately, firstly, those who could cultivate the mirage and illusory realm to the pinnacle and grasp the 10th level illusory realm at the primal chaos realm were too few. Currently, the entire realm Heart Great Land could be counted with one's fingers. Secondly, 10th level secret impartations were only possessed by the three great organizations. They were respectively the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, Primogenitor Ancient Nation, and Towering Sky Ancient Nation. One had to know that of the 6 great ancient countries, even the Myriad Realms Ancient Country, which was the strongest, did not have a 10th level mirage and illusory realm secret technique. One could imagine the difficulty of obtaining it. Third, a mirage and illusory realm secret treasure. Other than the 3 great ancient nations, this was the only method for a primal chaos expert to unleash the 10th level of the illusory realm. This was also the reason why the mirage and illusory realm secret treasures were so expensive. A mirage and illusory realm secret treasure that was only at the 10th level and was useless to cosmos gods would cost at least 10 billion cosmos crystals. It was comparable to a secret treasure weapon used by a great expert like Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master. If it were a mirage and illusory realm secret treasure that was greatly beneficial to cosmos gods, its price would be even more exaggerated. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to comprehend the secret treasure and research absolute arts. Only those with heaven-defying talent like Dongbu Shuang had hope of obtaining it. Even so, the price was exorbitant. My realm is sufficient, but I lack a secret treasure, Dongbu Shuang thought. The apex secret impartation in the mirage and illusory realm? That was impossible. Even the strongest ancient nation like the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation could not obtain it. It was impossible for the other 3 great ancient nations to spread it out. Unless he, Dongbu Shuang, joined one of the 3 great organizations, it was impossible for him to learn it. Being one of the 6 personal disciples of the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, the status of Dongbu Shuang was naturally high. Through the intelligence network that the Southern Cloud's sacred religion had spread across the entire realm Heart Great Land, he was able to gather information regarding the mirage and illusory realm secret treasures that were publicly sold. There was only a single mirage and illusory realm secret treasure that was greatly beneficial to cosmos gods, the Heart Devil Scepter. It was left behind by a mirage and illusory realm cosmos god, Heart Devil Religious Master, after his death. Its price was unknown. He had to negotiate with the seller first. Secondly, they were all 10th level mirage and illusory realm secret treasures. There were a total of 8 of them, and their prices ranged from 12 billion cosmos crystals to 20 billion cosmos crystals. There are so few mirage and illusory realm secret treasures. Dongbu Shuang sighed inwardly. These were treasures that were being sold by the 6 great ancient nations and more than 100 nations. But because there were very few that required 10th level mirage and illusory realm secret treasures, Dongbu Shuang was not worried that he could not buy any mirage and illusory realm secret treasures. The only problem was, could he afford it? Borrowing cosmos crystals from his teacher? Southern Cloud King was wealthy, and he was willing to spend on his disciples. But 10 billion cosmos crystals? Dongbu Shuang did not dare to ask for so much. Over the years of cultivation, even though Shuang had some vague understanding of the cosmos god realm in the mirage and illusory realm and Tao of Void, it was clearly difficult to take this step. Snow Eagle, hurry up and come see me. Southern Cloud King summoned. At that moment, Dongbu Shuang brought along the magic dragon and left Feishua City for the capital. Within the royal palace, in the meditation ground of Southern Cloud King, he remained seated cross-legged on the black grass. Behind him, there was a misty white pond. At this moment, there was a tall and thin middle-aged man standing by the side. Teacher. Dongbua Shuang came and greeted respectfully. Have you succeeded in cultivating the 2 secret impartation techniques? Southern Cloud King asked. I've succeeded. Dongbua Shuang answered. What about the avatar technique? I've succeeded too. Good. Southern Cloud King softly nodded. I have a mission for you. Once you complete it, I'll give you 20,000 contribution points. Dongbua Shuang listened attentively. 20,000 contribution points. That was very high. Within the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, personal disciples did not have to exchange for the void lineage absolute art scriptures with contribution points. As long as one cultivated an absolute art scripture to the pinnacle of primal chaos realm, he could then choose the next one. Without grasping it completely, one could not be greedy. And for absolute art scriptures that were not of the void lineage, one had to exchange for them. They only required 1/10 of the contribution points. For instance, the 3 realms technique required 500,000 contribution points for an inner disciple, and 50,000 contribution points for a personal disciple. Actually, there was no need for those who primarily cultivated the Tao of Void to exchange for other absolute art scriptures. There was another use for contribution points, and that was to exchange for all sorts of rare treasures. Similarly, personal disciples could exchange for 1/10 of the price with his teacher. 20,000 contribution points could be exchanged for 2 billion cosmos crystals worth of rare treasures. It was just enough for his newly refined golden-robed avatar to cultivate the Southern Cloud's sacred body to the 10th level grand perfection. In the fiery Zhao nation, currently, the Sky Sword sect is spreading their influence wantonly and suppressing my Southern Cloud's sacred religion. Southern Cloud King said, the Black Devil 4 nations have always been the core region of my Southern Cloud's sacred religion. The Sky Sword sect has always been weak here, but now, they are coming with such momentum. The fiery Zhao nation is the most chaotic nation among the Black Devil 4 nations. That is also the reason why the Sky Sword sect chose to spread their influence there. That place lacks an expert to protect it. You should go over and help Marquis Chu Ming. Hopefully, you can suppress the Sky Sword sect as soon as possible. We can't allow them to be so unbridled in the Black Devil 4 nations. The 10 great religions. The other 8 came from the 6 great ancient nations. Their influence within the ancient nations was formidable, and they did not attach much importance to some of the smaller nations. Only the Sky Sword sect and Southern Cloud's sacred religion were fighting fiercely for the sake of spreading their influence. Furthermore, the Southern Cloud's sacred religion was still suffering from a disadvantage overall. Because the Sky Sword sect had the faint support of the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summer Wind Ancient Nation. But no matter what, in the Black Devil 4 nations, that was the most fundamental place for the Southern Cloud's sacred religion to spread. Since the Sky Sword sect dared to spread their influence here, Southern Cloud King would naturally not tolerate it. Heading to the fiery Zhao nation, Dongbua Shuang was enlightened. He continued writing the 3rd chapter. Chapter 1062. Teacher, will the Sky Sword sect send over Cosmos gods? Dongbua Shuang asked. Don't worry. Southern Cloud King chuckled, the competition between religions is also a competition of reputation. Our Southern Cloud's sacred religion is stronger amongst primal chaos experts. Naturally, many cultivators would feel that it is more suitable to join our Southern Cloud's sacred religion. In such a battle, if a cosmos god were to bully a primal chaos expert, even if he won, it did not represent how powerful his religion was. If I lose, it will be even more humiliating. Dongbua Shuang understood. Fame was very important to the spread of a sect. Therefore, the experts who guarded it were extremely important. Even though there were many experts in the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, other than those from the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, there were many experts from other nations. But the Realm Heart Great Land was too big. Naturally, they had their own priorities when overseeing the various places. The Black Devil 4 nations have always been the place where our Southern Cloud's sacred religion spread its influence. Even though the Sky Sword sect had spread their influence here previously, they didn't have much influence and didn't send any formidable experts. Hence, the experts of my Southern Cloud sacred religion have always been stationed in other regions to expand the influence of the Southern Cloud sacred religion. Southern Cloud King said, who would have thought that they would actually enter the fiery Zhao nation of the Black Devil Four Nations? Humph, since they dared to come, I must teach them a good lesson. Can it be killed? Dongbui Shuang asked. Go ahead. Southern Cloud King said, but you have to be careful too. On the surface, those who came to find trouble with you are definitely experts from the Sky Sword sect. But in the dark, there might be some experts from the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summer Wind Ancient Nation dealing against you. Of course, there will definitely not be any cosmos gods appearing. The moment one does, it would be a violation of the rules, and I will act directly. Yes. Dongbui Shuang was relieved. What kind of status did the master have? He was a legend across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Being the religion master, it was impossible for him to act casually. Otherwise, it would be too demeaning. After all, when a primal chaos expert came to bully them, the sovereign had to act. If many cultivators saw it, they would only think that the Southern Cloud's sacred religion did not have anyone capable, and that the primal chaos experts they nurtured were too weak. Instead, if a cosmos god dared to act, Southern Cloud King would directly act. Marquis Chu Ming will arrange the details. What you need to do is to act at the crucial moment. Southern Cloud King turned to the tall and thin middle-aged man by the side. Chu Ming, you and Snow Eagle can discuss some other trivial matters in detail during the journey. Yes, Marquis Chu Ming said respectfully. Snow Eagle, since you've successfully refined your doppelganger, you should temporarily stay in the capital. This is the safest place in the entire Southern Cloud Nation. No matter who acts, I am confident of protecting your life. Southern Cloud King was relatively confident. In other places, he could only escape when facing unparalleled existences like Ancestor Fan. However, in the capital that he had built for countless years and used countless treasures, he was not afraid of anyone in a one-on-one fight. Yes. Dongbui Shuang nodded. There was no need to worry about the safety of Feishua City. Because the Feishua City was a huge city. Even the Black Devil Great Lake blood sacrifice would not be held in such a huge city. This was something the Southern Cloud King would absolutely not allow. Whoever dared to act, the Southern Cloud King would most likely send an avatar over. Although he had reached a compromise with the Black Devil Lake, it was only for a small city. Furthermore, it was something that only happened once in a long time. Dongbui Shuang brought along his magic dragon and Marquis Chu Ming as they set off. They first relied on the destructive realm teleportation technique to arrive at the wilderness outside the fiery Zhao capital. Even though the fiery Zhao nation might be chaotic and weak, this is ultimately the capital of the fiery Zhao nation. If we were to use the destructive realm teleportation technique to enter, the fiery Zhao nation would definitely discover us immediately. That would bring about some trouble. Marquis Chu Ming explained. Dongbui Shuang nodded. In the primal chaos void where the arrays were weaker, his previous religion, the Great Void Heaven Temple, could easily detect the entry and exit of the destructive realm teleportation technique. Much less the fiery Zhao nation. The two of them flew together. His magic dragon obediently followed behind as they flew towards the city gates. Marquis Chu Ming, you should arrange everything beforehand. Dongbui Shuang said, I don't know much about spreading the religion. Rest assured. If I really need Brother Feishua to do something, I'll naturally arrange it beforehand. As for usual, everything would be up to one's heart. As long as it could increase the reputation of my Southern Cloud's sacred religion, it would be good. Furthermore, it would be good for us to reveal techniques and strength that would strike fear in many cultivators. They would also be more willing to join the Southern Cloud's sacred religion. Marquis Chu Ming said. Dongbui Shuang was enlightened. It would be good if they did not embarrass the Southern Cloud's sacred religion. Increasing their reputation would be even better. That was simple too. The two of them entered the capital of the fiery Zhao nation side by side. And then, the moment Dongbu Shuang entered, he could sense some remnant bloody and slaughter aura with his void senses. The fiery Zhao nation is in reality the weakest. Many devils from the Black Devil Great Lake live here. Marquis Chu Ming explained, even in the capital, there are frequent massacres. As long as one escapes fast enough and isn't discovered by the army, it would be fine. Those with slightly greater backgrounds can be killed, and the army wouldn't pursue the matter even if they discovered it. Naturally, many devils from the Black Devil Great Lake live here, and they don't wish for things to be too chaotic. Naturally, they would restrict their subordinates. Overall, this is considered the most stable city in the entire fiery Zhao nation. But precisely because of the chaos, many cultivators here desire to become stronger. Marquis Chu Ming chuckled. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Just like how many experts had bloodlines in his body, there were many experts in the realm Heart Great Land. Over the years, even some of the weaker descendants of cosmos gods would become commoners. Many marriages would occur, causing many commoners to have formidable bloodlines. It's just that they were extremely thin. Their bloodline cultivators were able to cultivate the Void Dao and other common Dao paths as well. At this moment, it depended on the attractiveness of the religion. The sacred palace of the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion located in the fiery Zhao Nation capital was the biggest in the entire fiery Zhao Nation. After all, the capital was also the biggest city, and it had the highest population, close to half of the entire nation. This sacred palace occupied a huge area and was relatively domineering. Nevertheless, at this moment, Southern Cloud Sacred Religion, do you all only know how to hide inside? You are so frightened when facing my Sky Sword sect. How pitiful. Outside the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace, there was a group of 10 cultivators cursing. Their voices were grand and reverberated in the surrounding world. As for the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace, it had activated its arrays. Many arrays were protecting it, and none of them dared to come out. Why is the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace closed? I still want to seek guidance from my teacher. A young cultivator watched from afar in a daze. There were many spectators watching from the side. An old man added, "Don't go. As long as you are from the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion, you will have to enter to cultivate. If you are discovered by those from the Sky Sword sect, you will be sentenced to death." What? Sentenced to death? This young cultivator was startled. Quite a few have died. Initially, some disciples did not know and wanted to enter to cultivate, yet they were killed by those experts from the Sky Sword sect? The old man added. Unless the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion is just going to endure this? What else can they do? Can't you see that the entire sacred palace is closed? The arrays have been activated, and they are guarding it to death. The old man sneered. This is simply too cowardly. The young man felt sullen. We are being bullied by the Sky Sword sect in the Black Devil formations. Is it because the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion can no longer hold on? I have to spend cosmos crystals before I could cultivate in the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. The news spread across the entire realm Heart Great Land. These disciples were all outer disciples. After joining, they would immediately slip away and go to other sections. This was very normal. As for outer disciples, the various great religions could only take the initiative to attract them. The experts from the Sky Sword sect are formidable. I should return to the Sky Sword sect and have a look. Who knows, I might become stronger by cultivating there. Discussions were going on everywhere. The fiery Zhao nation was chaotic. The weak were prey to the strong. Seeing the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion being bullied and forced to close their sacred palace, they would naturally feel that they were not strong enough. It was fine if it was a short period. But if it dragged on, the influence would worsen. And then, from afar, Dongbu Shuang brought his servant Magic Dragon and Marquis Chu Ming over. They seemed casual, but in reality, they were incredibly fast. With a single step, they had already arrived. He is. Of the group of experts from the Sky Sword sect, The others were at the Unity Realm. The leading one was a 9th-level expert, Changsu Wang. He had cultivated the secret impartation of the Sky Sword sect, the Sky Sword Undying Body, to the 10th-level grand perfection. That was why he dared to bring people over to scold others. As for matters like scolding others, it was sufficient for 9th-level experts to appear. The stronger experts behind him disdained to do such trivial matters. This white-robed young man. Changsu Wang immediately recognized him. He is that Yingshan Snow Eagle. Even though Changsu Wang was startled, he was not afraid. The reason why the Sky Sword sect could spread so far was because the Sky Sword Undying Body was incredibly formidable. Even Cosmos gods had a hard time killing them, much less this Yingshan Snow Eagle. Are you the personal disciple of Southern Cloud King, Yingshan Snow Eagle? Changsu Wang announced. That group of Unity Realm experts from the Sky Sword sect naturally stood behind him. Yingshan Snow Eagle? Southern Cloud King's personal disciple? Is he that Yingshan Snow Eagle who reached the 10th level in 1.5 billion years? The one who fought against White Cloud Devil Master with his full strength, Snow Eagle? Discussions broke out in the distance. Yingshan Snow Eagle was quite famous in the Black Devil formations. You better listen up. This is the fiery Zhao nation. It is best for your Southern Cloud's sacred religion to obediently retreat. Otherwise, it won't be just the previous matter of killing some ordinary disciples. Changsu Wang announced. His voice reverberated in the surroundings, let us leave. Saying that, he immediately left. He was clear that he was not the opponent of Yingshan Snow Eagle. But he was confident of leaving. Leave? Dongbua Shuang coldly snorted. His voice caused an explosion in the mind of Changsu Wang. For a moment, he was engulfed by the illusory realm. Even though he was a 9th-level expert, he had relied on the Sky Sword Undying Body to barely reach this stage. His soul was merely at the 8th level in the primal chaos void. Facing the illusory realm unleashed by Dongbua Shuang, he fell for it in an instant. Without any resistance, Dongbua Shuang destroyed Changsu Wang's soul with a thought, causing him to die. His illusory realm technique was showing its true prowess. Naturally, it was only effective when facing experts who relied on external forces to reach the 9th level strength. If he were to face a 10th level expert, his illusory realm technique would no longer be sufficient. Saying it was slow, yet everything happened in an instant. Changsu Wang shouted, let us leave. That group of Unity Realm experts from the Sky Sword sect were prepared to be brought away. Following that, Dongbua Shuang used the illusory realm to kill Changsu Wang. At the moment he killed him, he waved his hand. Who? Dongbua Shuang's palm emitted a faint light. His palm was like a sparkling white jade. One could see the void ahead being torn apart, causing Changsu Wang and his subordinates to become flattened. One could see the space ahead turning into a scroll. A scroll flew to where Dongbua Shuang was. Within the scroll were Changsu Wang and his subordinates. All of them were in a daze, yet they did not have any aura. Clearly, they had died and became part of the scroll. If Changsu Wang's soul was intact, given his Sky Sword Undying Body, he would not die even if he was suppressed within. He could even struggle and escape. Nonetheless, he had died before he was suppressed. Quite a few treasures flew out from this scroll and landed in the hands of Dongbua Shuang. Hang it on the outer wall of my Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Dongbua Shuang took this scroll and passed it to the dumbfounded Marquis Chu Ming. Good, good. Marquis Chu Ming nodded. His eyes were wide open as he looked at the scroll in front of him. Too formidable. Too powerful. Remember, use the array to protect it and hang it on the wall. Since the Sky Sword sect dared to act presumptuously in my Southern Cloud sacred religion, this is the outcome. Dongbua Shuang said. With the protection of the array, not even 10th level experts could destroy it and take the scroll away. This scroll would be hung here forever. Illusory Realm Technique. In addition, the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles Secret Importation, Spectacular Painting. The third watch was over. If you are satisfied, please vote for a monthly ticket. Chapter 1063. After Dongbua Shuang finished giving his orders, he brought his magic dragon and headed towards the front door of the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. "Why aren't you opening the door?" Marquis Chu Ming shouted out. Hong Long Long, the two towering doors opened with a boom. Actually, everything that happened outside could be seen clearly by the experts within the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace of the fiery Zhao Nation capital. It's just that they were shocked by how a 9th-level expert like Chang Su Wang and his group of subordinates turned into a painting. Chang Su Wang was someone who had cultivated the Sky Sword Undying Body to the 10th-level Grand Perfection realm. Even Cosmos gods would have to spend more effort to kill him. One move. An instant. And he turned into a painting. The doors opened with a rumble. A group of experts from the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace stood by the entrance. They were led by two primal chaos experts. Several hundred of them bowed in unison, Senior Disciple Brother Snow Eagle. The rules of the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion. All outer disciples had to address inner disciples as Senior Disciple Brother or Senior Sister. And inner disciples were one level lower than personal disciples, and had to address them as Senior Disciple Brother or Senior Sister. Dongbua Shuang nodded in acknowledgement. He then brought his servant inside. "Brother Chun Chi, why aren't you arranging a residence for Brother Snow Eagle?" Marquis Chu Ming shouted out. "Yes, yes." The leading dark-skinned primal chaos male naturally acknowledged, "Senior Disciple Brother Snow Eagle, please follow me." There were many disciples present, and even many cultivators who were paying attention to this place from afar. No matter if they were ordinary spectators or some experts from the fiery Zhao Nation royal family who wanted to watch the battle between the two great religions, or the great devils from the Black Devil Great Lake, when they saw that white-robed young man who was surrounded by all the disciples from the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion, all of them felt a chill in their hearts. What a good Shan Snow Eagle! He is indeed an expert who reached the 10th level in 1.5 billion years and could fight against White Cloud Devil Master. After becoming a disciple of Southern Cloud King for so many years, he has become even more frightening. In a restaurant a few million kilometers away from this place, an old primal chaos devil was drinking and eating by himself while watching the battle from afar. He knew that the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion would definitely retaliate against the Sky Sword sect. Therefore, he came to take a look. When he saw Dongbua Shuang, he was surprised. But when he saw Chang Su Wang and the other experts turned into paintings with a single move of picturesque and hung them on the wall, he was shocked. Spectacular painting, one of the two secret impartation techniques of the Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles, a 10th level technique. However, it definitely can't suppress Chang Su Wang. This primal chaos old man faintly felt a chill in his heart. Chang Su Wang is finished without me noticing anything. Scary, scary. It's even more terrifying than during the blood sacrifice. Shan Snow Eagle is this powerful? The experts of the fiery Zhao Kingdom's royal family were terrified as they watched. Although the fiery Zhao Kingdom was the most chaotic of the Black Demon Four nations, it was precisely because of the chaos and slaughter that the experts who rose to power here were even crazier. Which one of them did not rise to power through slaughter? Of the 10 great religions, the Sky Sword sect and the Southern Cloud Sacred Religion were about to fight, and they were naturally happy to watch the show. It's just that this Shan Snow Eagle was too savage. It seemed like his technique was simple and easy, but the more it was so, the more it made those experts watching in the dark feel fear. Hang it more conspicuously. Right here. In order to hang this painting, Marquis Chu Ming spent quite a while. It was clearly a very simple matter, but he purposely went through a lot of trouble. He even specially inlaid it. There was even a simple spirit design operating on the inlaid frame, causing this painting to constantly emit light. It was very eye-catching. The two of you guard this place. Watch carefully. Marquis Chu Ming arranged two more subordinates. Actually, there were arrays covering the outer wall of the Southern Cloud's sacred palace that protected this painting. There was no need to worry. Marquis Chu Ming did this to slap the face of the Sky Sword sect. The battle between both parties was incredibly savage. On the surface, they dared to block the entrance and kill some of the outer disciples of the other party. But in the dark, they were even more sinister. After all, to Southern Cloud King and Sky Sword King, who stood high above, the two great religions could provide them with an endless stream of cosmos crystals. Cosmos crystals represented resources, and they naturally could not give up. Wah! He turned into a painting. Really? That is a primal chaos expert. As Marquis Chu Ming hung up the painting, he returned to the Southern Cloud sacred palace. At that moment, many spectators rushed over. Quite a few experts even teleported over. They looked at that painting in astonishment. Much less them. As the news spread, several aristocratic Marquis disciples from the fiery Zhao nation came rushing over in their carriages. They were all watching from afar, clicking their tongues in admiration. After all, Chang Su Wang was relatively famous in the Sky Sword sect. He had contributed greatly to the propagation of the Sky Sword sect. Such an amazing character had turned into a painting and hung there. Is it that Yingshan Snow Eagle? The Southern Cloud 12 Sacred Styles Secret Impartation spectacular painting shouldn't be so formidable, right? How could he kill Chang Su Wang so easily? Discussions were going on everywhere. There were even some aristocratic Marquis disciples in some brothels who were bragging about it. They had some background, and most of them knew about the two secret impartation styles, arch destruction and spectacular painting. They were all bragging about it, but in reality, most of them were at the Unity realm. Some were even ordinary void gods. The weaker these cultivators were, the more they loved to talk about those legendary existences. Clearly, Dongbo Shuang was an absolute expert in the legends to them. More than 50 million kilometers away from the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Two figures stood in midair looking in the direction of the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. One of them was a cold violet-robed male with a layer of frost covering his face. By his side, an enchanting red-haired girl muttered, "Master." What a Yingshan Snow Eagle! The eyes of the violet-robed male flashed with cold light. It is rumored that Ancestor Fan wants to take him in as a disciple. He is indeed quite skilled. He, Thunder King Mo Chao, was the organizer of this invasion by the Sky Sword sect into the Black Devil formations. He was only an inner disciple of the Sky Sword sect, yet his status was higher than personal disciples because he was one of the two Dao protectors of the Sky Sword sect. His teacher was even more mysterious. Even though it was not publicized, the Southern Cloud sacred religion vaguely deduced that the teacher of this Thunder King Mo Chao from the Sky Sword Nation should be a terrifying existence from the Myriad Realms' ancient nation. "Master, what should we do?" The enchanting girl by the side asked in a low voice, "Should we ask the two special envoys for help?" This invasion into the Black Devil formations was very important to the Sky Sword sect. Hence, the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summer Wind Ancient Nation both sent an ultra-strong expert to help out in the dark. After all, these two great ancient nations had been earning huge profits from the Sky Sword sect over a long period, and they would definitely help out during crucial moments. The two of them. This Yingshan Snow Eagle killed Chang Su Wang with a flip of his hand. I can't even see through what technique he used. The violet-robed male sneered. It is impossible for the two great ancient nations to spend so much effort before they understand the background of Yingshan Snow Eagle. Even though they were backed by the two great ancient nations, the experts from the Sky Sword sect still felt resentment towards the two great ancient nations. After all, they had risked their lives to spread the religion, yet the majority of the cosmos crystals they earned were taken away by the two great ancient nations. They even put on airs in front of them, and they had to endure it. How could they not feel sullen? How could they not feel resentment? But they had no choice. How could they afford to offend the two great ancient nations? Southern Cloud King, it is fine if you don't act. But the moment you act, you are so powerful. It seems we'll have to spend more effort in the future. The violet-robed male Mo Chao frowned. But he did not know. Southern Cloud King did not know that his disciple was so formidable. Furthermore, when the news of what happened in the fiery Zhao nation was transmitted back, Southern Cloud King was slightly startled. Southern Cloud Capital, in the meditation ground of the royal palace. This Brett's snow eagle is so formidable. Southern Cloud King was incredibly startled. There were 3 black-robed men standing by his side. One of them said with a low voice, "King, do the 3 of us still need to set off?" This time, the Sky Sword sect is coming with a torrential momentum. It isn't easy to deal with them. I originally wanted to make use of this opportunity to polish Snow Eagle, but who would have thought that I have underestimated this disciple of mine? Southern Cloud King chuckled. Currently, he is doing very well in the fiery Zhao nation. Then let him continue. The 3 of you, have a rest first. Wait until things are more troublesome before the 3 of you set off. Withdraw for now. Yes. The 3 black-robed men acknowledged in unison. Following that, the fog dissipated, and the 3 of them disappeared. The deep eyes of Southern Cloud King were filled with curiosity. Given how wealthy he was, the strength he had was absolutely not what he displayed on the surface. The 6 great ancient nations wanted to snatch benefits from him, yet he could resist for so many years. Naturally, he had something to rely on. Asterisk, he was too busy during the New Year's Day. Star. Chapter 1064. Southern Cloud King sat there. His gaze penetrated through the endless void and landed outside the fiery Zhao nation's Southern Cloud sacred palace. One could see many scenes flitting past his eyes. One of them was the scene where Dongbu Shuang acted against Chang Su Wang. Actually, Dongbu Shuang's strength could affect time-space. Especially after his soul absorbed the mysterious aura from the higher dimensional world outside the realm Heart Great Land, his soul had transformed. Even many tracking techniques could not trace the whereabouts of Dongbu Shuang. Like in the past when the avatar of Mount Chimei hid, Sacred Master could not find it. It was only Old Monster Stone, who had unique techniques that allowed him to find the avatar of Mount Chimei. Given Southern Cloud King's strength, it was impossible for him to track down Dongbu Shuang. But he knew where that battle happened beforehand. Hence, he could just observe that place and observe everything that happened previously. Strange. What technique did he use to deal with Chang Su Wang stealthily without leaving behind any traces? Southern Cloud King thought. If it were other combat techniques, the disturbance would be huge. But the illusory realm targeted the soul and did not cause any disturbance at all. Is it a soul-related technique? Or some unique secret treasure? Southern Cloud King guessed. He then chuckled. No matter what. It was good for a disciple to be more powerful. It was inevitable for powerful cultivators to have their own secrets. Southern Cloud King would not delve into it. The foundation of the Sky Sword sect is slightly weaker than my Southern Cloud sacred religion. But with the 2 great ancient nations aiding them in the dark, my Southern Cloud sacred religion is at a disadvantage in many battles. This disciple of mine is much more formidable than I expected. Southern Cloud King was looking forward to it. Just like how the 2 great ancient nations sent experts to help the Sky Sword sect in the dark, this was shady. For instance, if a mysterious expert from the Myriad Realms ancient nation appeared publicly and defeated Dongbu Shuang, what would that signify? That mysterious expert was not a disciple of the Sky Sword sect. Even if he won, it did not represent that the absolute art from the Sky Sword sect was more formidable. Hence, only when the disciples of the 2 great religions competed could it prove who was stronger. Dongbu Shuang was the personal disciple of Southern Cloud King. His victory, especially with his void technique, proved how powerful the Southern Cloud sacred religion was. This caused many cultivators to think, Yingshan Snow Eagle has joined the Southern Cloud sacred religion, and his techniques are so formidable. It is definitely not wrong for me to join the Southern Cloud sacred religion. It is sufficient for me to learn some superficial knowledge from them. The more geniuses and experts a sect had, the more attractive it would be. Fiery Zhao Nation, within the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Dongbua Shuang had already dismissed his attendants and was cultivating alone. Ho ho ho. However, there was the sound of wind whistling in the completely sealed hall. A white-robed youth was sitting cross-legged on a cattail hassock. Above him, there were already 3 beams of light that covered half of the sky. One of the beams of light was a stretch of black chaos. It was extremely heavy, and even space itself seemed to be frozen. The other ray of light was illusory and indistinct. The last ray of light was the surging void wave. The sound of the wind in the surroundings was vaguely the 4th streak of light forming. Like silk, like fog, they gathered into threads and dispersed into mist. What was condensed and dispersed was the void. The void was directly compressed into threads, or split apart into pieces. It seemed to be broken yet not truly broken. This move is always lacking by a bit. Dongbua Shuang sat there with a frown. The 4th light that he was working hard to condense dissipated. South Dongbua Shuang, who was seated cross-legged, suddenly moved. He teleported to midair. Nevertheless, his body abruptly flattened into a piece of art. He sat cross-legged within this piece of art. Following that, this piece of art dissipated like fog. The body of Dongbua Shuang that was seated suddenly flashed before dispersing into hundreds of bodies. All of them were seated cross-legged. 5 phases, 5 phases. This fog phase is always lacking by a bit. The hundreds of seated Dongbua Shuang muttered. Oh right. The eyes of the hundreds of Dongbua Shuang brightened at the same time. This time, it felt perfect. He was filled with confidence. With a thought, the 4th light formed above him. This 4th light was truly like silk or fog. It switched between the two naturally, and the void state was as natural as flowing water. If it was used to restrain others, it could easily cut the enemy into pieces. Similarly, it could shroud and bind the enemy when it became fog. Ha ha ha, on my first day in the fiery Zhao Nation, I have already grasped the fog phase. This fiery Zhao Nation is truly a blessed land for me. Dongbua Shuang could not help but laugh. The Tao of Void. Before becoming a disciple of Southern Cloud King, Shuang had been researching the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles and the Scarlet Cloud God Spear. He had practically reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in these 2 directions. For the sake of becoming a cosmos god, he would naturally continue researching on different directions of the void. The more he researched, the greater the chances of him becoming a cosmos god. Hence, not long after becoming the disciple of Southern Cloud King, Shuang used the fact that he had completely grasped the destructive realm teleportation technique and chose another void-related absolute art from the Southern Cloud sacred religion, the 5 phases sealing technique, a 5 phases sealing technique. This was the strongest void absolute art that the Southern Cloud sacred religion had. That's right. The strongest. Even though there were still 3 realms technique, avatar technique, and a great destruction realm teleportation technique, above this absolute art, 3 realms technique was a time-related absolute art. However, the 3 realms technique was a time-type ultimate art, while the cloning technique was only a life-saving technique. It was precious because it was rare and important to protect one's life. The Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique was even a heaven-defying movement technique. Relying on this technique, one could travel from one origin world to another. But the difficulty of cultivating it was extremely high. Only when one became a cosmos god in the Tao of Void and reached the 2nd level of cosmos god would one be qualified to cultivate it. Furthermore, the chances of succeeding in cultivating it were not high. Dongbua Shuang was not qualified to cultivate it at all. It was different from the previous 2 techniques, survival and movement. The 5 phases sealing technique was a direct combat absolute art. Furthermore, it was an extremely horrifying combat absolute art. 5 phases sealing technique. The 5 different Tao paths of the void were also known as the 5 phases. They were respectively sky phase, earth phase, violent phase, mist phase, and origin phase. They were 5 different forms of the void and different Tao paths. Of the 5 phases, reaching small success in any phase would allow one to reach the 9th level. If one succeeded in cultivating all 5 phases, they could complement each other. The 5 phases sealing technique would allow one to unleash 5 different 9th level techniques at the same time. Once all 5 great techniques were fused into one, it would become incredibly violent. It was much more frightening than the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. Even some of the other secret impartation techniques of the Southern Cloud King could not compare to it. It was unquestionably the strongest absolute art of the Southern Cloud sacred religion, and also the hardest to cultivate. This was not the most brutal technique. It was very difficult for a person to master a 9th level technique. There were 5 different Tao paths of the void, and every Tao path required one to grasp a 9th level technique. The difficulty was even more frightening. The moment one succeeded, the Southern Cloud King would directly bestow the precious secret treasure, the 5 phases beads. By relying on the 5 phases beads, one could unleash a 10th level power in 5 different 9th level techniques. The 10th level technique could even perfectly fuse 5 different techniques together. That was when the technique was unleashed. By then, the 5 phases sealing technique could even seal the destructive realm teleportation technique. Those who were slightly weaker would be easily imprisoned or crushed to death. An ultra-tyrannical absolute art. It was also hard to cultivate. After all, there were 5 different Tao paths. Actually, the more heaven-defying the absolute art, the harsher the difficulty. For instance, the difficulty of cultivating the 3 realms technique was beyond that of the 5 phases sealing technique. Those who cultivated that absolute art had turned into a madman and even committed suicide. But after cultivating it, the terror of the 3 realms technique was beyond that of the 5 phases sealing technique. Ever since I took him as my teacher, I have currently grasped 4 phases of the 5 phases sealing technique. Dongbui Shuang thought. Fortunately, his accumulations were deep. In his previous life, he had researched on different aspects of the void, and in this life, he had also researched on the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles and the Scarlet Cloud lineage. I'm just lacking the final phase, the origin phase. Dongbui Shuang pondered. His gaze was looking at the void in front of him. The void was continuously magnified in his eyes. Eventually, he could see the essence of the void, layers of black fog spherical bodies forming a membrane wall. The origin phase. I have seen its origin phase in my previous life. In this life, I have even used the arch destruction to break the cage and grasp the avatar technique. But my understanding of it is still too shallow. Dongbui Shuang thought. Chapter 1065. Fortunately, I only need small success and not large success or grand perfection. Dongbui Shuang thought. This absolute art was split into 3 levels: small success, large success, and grand perfection. Dongbui Shuang had spent quite a lot of effort on the 5 phases sealing technique, especially after creating the 9th level technique in the illusory realm. Most of his effort was spent on the Tao of Void. His accumulations were deep. The heaven phase was the Tao that the Void primogenitor walked in his previous life. The Voidwalker lineage were absolute darlings of the Void. Even though his teacher Gu Qi had not comprehended the destructive realm teleportation technique, he could still perform ultra-long distance great teleportation. Even from a great distance, he could still forcefully control a huge piece of the Void. His control over the void had reached an exaggerated stage. The heaven phase was precisely this kind of large-scale control over the void. The earth phase was a completely different path. It was something that materialized. But Shuang had once walked in the Lost World corridor for 1 trillion years. He had always been observing the structure of the Lost World corridor. The void had materialized into many ancient void trees, and they had even given birth to eggs, giving birth to many destruction devils. He comprehended for 1 trillion years, and his foundation in this aspect was deep. Thus, he cultivated the earth phase relatively quickly. The violent phase was similar to the Scarlet Cloud combat technique in many aspects. They were on the same path. Currently, Dongbo Shuiying's Scarlet Cloud combat technique had reached the pinnacle of Primal Chaos Realm, and he could no longer improve further. When the conditions were right, success would naturally follow. The mist phase was slightly more troublesome. It was similar to the spectacular painting of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. The origin phase was the only one that he had yet to cultivate. Actually, once Dongbo Shuiying cultivated it to this stage, he was just a strand away from becoming a cosmos god. At this stage, the number of Tao paths he could take in the Tao of Void could be counted with 2 hands. Hence, the 5 phases included the majority of Tao paths in the Tao of Void. Fiery Zhao Nation. The Sky Sword sect occupied a huge area. Within a residence. The 2 of you, my Sky Sword sect has suffered a huge loss. A conferred king has died there. Thunder King Imo Chao, who was dressed in a purple robe, was sitting cross-legged. His gaze swept across the other 2 sitting beside him. Of the 2, one had dark red skin and a curved horn on his head. He was eating all kinds of strange metals and stones in big mouthfuls. To him, metals and stones were food. The other was even stranger. His entire body was shrouded in a black robe, and the inside of the black robe was filled with black mist. There were some insects flying in the black mist, and his eyes were formed by the gathering of some red insects. These 2 were the 2 special envoys. That person who was eating those bizarre metal rocks was from the Fan clan that came from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Of the 3 terrifying great clans in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, only the Fan clan paid attention to the outside world. The other 2 great clans were too lazy to care about the outside world. The expert shrouded in black robes was from the Myriad Realms Ancient Kingdom. I went to see that painting earlier. The black-robed expert's voice was hoarse and deep. Your Sky Sword Kingdom's Chang Su Wang has really turned into a painting. Picturesque, picturesque indeed. Similarly, a conferred king from the Sky Sword Kingdom, Thunder King Mo Chao, could not help but feel frustrated. Picturesque can't reach this stage. It might be a soul technique or some unique secret treasure. The crimson-skinned expert casually said. He continued eating the metal rocks with ga bang sounds. If you ask me, you should have sent a 10th level expert from your Sky Sword Kingdom to fight him. I don't believe that 10th level expert could not figure out his foundation. Mo Chao did not care about him. Send? It was fine if the Sky Sword sect lost a 9th level expert. But if they lost a 10th level expert, the price they had to pay would be too huge. My Sky Sword sect has suffered such a huge loss. It should be time for the 2 of you to act. Mo Chao urged. I'll first send some children to investigate his foundation. The black-robed expert indifferently said. Right. Only after we understand his foundation can we make a plan and obtain victory in one fell swoop. The crimson-skinned expert continued eating with ga bang sounds. Don't be anxious. The habits of that old man, Southern Cloud King, are quite insidious. He would always drag things out slowly. Furthermore, he would use some underhanded methods to accumulate small victories into a huge victory. This Shan Snow Eagle is too young. He should be the vanguard since he is the first to be sent over. Mo Chao and the black-robed expert both agreed. It was originally difficult to infiltrate into the Black Devil formations. They had made ample preparations this time, though who would have thought that the vanguard sent by Southern Cloud King was so formidable. Dongbo Shuiying wanted to cultivate the Mirage and Illusory Realm. He could not improve it temporarily, and he did not have any secret treasures either. He was only lacking 1 phase for the Tao of Void 5 phases sealing technique. As for the pinnacle of voidification, it was even harder. His cultivation had reached a bottleneck. Dongbo Shuiying left the Southern Cloud's sacred palace. He began strolling around the fiery Zhao capital. Fiery Zhao capital, are there any famous places in terms of delicacies and wine? Before Dongbush Shuang left, he had asked Marquis Chu Ming. Marquis Chu Ming had a deep understanding of this. At that moment, he passed a set of information regarding delicacies and wine to Dongbush Shuang. If there's anything, just send a transmission to me. And just like that, Shuang brought his servant Magic Dragon to stroll around. He visited many places with delicacies. There were small taverns by the roadside, or towering and vast restaurants. There were even some bustling places. As long as there were delicacies and wine, Dongbush Shuang would go and have a taste. The fifth place. After eating all sorts of delicacies and drinking all sorts of wine, Dongbush Shuang arrived outside a tavern in a good mood. Previously, he was no longer troubled by the bottleneck. At this moment, he felt relaxed and happy. Delicious. Not bad. TSK, I should buy more of this wine. Dongbush Shuang was enjoying his meal. His servant Magic Dragon was also forcefully requested by Dongbush Shuang to sit by the side and accompany him to eat. The area occupied by the tavern was not huge, and it only had a single level. Nevertheless, business was booming, and there were many customers. After Dongbush Shuang reached grand perfection in the Southern Cloud sacred body, he could retract his aura like a mortal. Even though his servant Magic Dragon could retract his aura as well, his concealment technique was slightly weaker. Hence, Unity Realm experts could sense the aura of the Magic Dragon. The manager of this tavern was filled with reverence and had arranged the best seats for Shuang. Halfway through the meal. Scram! Hurry up and scram further away. Our master has booked this tavern. Everyone else, scram! One could see a group of Unity Realm experts barging into this tavern. When the customers saw this, they were so frightened that they hurriedly left. It is actually a group of Unity Realm experts. It seems they are the subordinates of the protectors. Their master should likely have a huge origin. The majority of the customers were ordinary cultivators. There were very few Unity Realm experts. Naturally, all of them fled. In the capital of the fiery Zhao nation, if one wanted to live longer, one had to be tactful. When it was time to hide, one had to hide. The two of you, hurry up and leave. Those Unity Realm experts pointed at Dongbush Shuang and his servant Magic Dragon who were still seated there. Dongbush Shuang frowned slightly. The servant Magic Dragon immediately stood up. The aura on the surface of his body suddenly erupted. A surging tyrannical aura surged out. This Magic Dragon could reach the 9th level. The surging aura frightened those Unity Realm experts so much that they turned pale. The muscular Magic Dragon roared, "Scram!" Hua! At this moment, a luxurious carriage slowly descended from midair. Master is here. Trouble. Those Unity Realm experts had ugly expressions. But they still respectfully welcomed the master outside the tavern. One could see that there was a group of protectors protecting the carriage. There were even beauties serving them. There were two males seated there. One was handsome and devilish-looking male who was emitting a primal chaos aura. As for the other luxurious green-robed male, he was merely at the Unity Realm. What is going on? The luxurious green-robed male indifferently asked. Your Highness, there are some customers who aren't willing to leave. One of them is a primal chaos expert. A servant below answered. Primal chaos realm. A primal chaos expert dares to be so arrogant in the fiery Zhao capital? The luxurious green-robed male sneered. He was naturally disdainful. He was the 7th prince of the fiery Zhao nation, and this time, he invited a personal disciple of a Blood Devil religious master from the Black Devil Great Lake who was currently at the 9th level strength. And the pupils of the handsome and devilish-looking male by his side dilated. He carefully looked at the muscular man standing and the white-robed young man seated within the tavern. He felt apprehensive. It's him. The handsome and devilish-looking male felt flustered. Even though Southern Cloud King and the 3 religious masters from the Black Devil Great Lake had reached a compromise, both parties had never stopped fighting. However, the fighting and killing between the two sides had never stopped. The Black Devil Great Lake often fought, even slaughtering people for blood sacrifices. And with the Summer Wind Ancient Nation leading the way, the Southern Cloud Nation, Snowhook Nation, and Maple Nest Nation would frequently retaliate. Who would have thought that it is Brother Snow Eagle? Sorry for disturbing you, the handsome and devilish-looking male announced. At the same time, he transmitted to the seventh prince by the side, hurry up and leave. That is Shan Snow Eagle. What? This seventh prince was so frightened that his face turned pale. As they were prepared to leave, 3 insects of different colors came stealthily from the void. They tunneled into the 3 protectors by the side of the tavern. At that moment, the 3 protectors trembled slightly. Closely following that, they turned towards that white-robed young man who was currently calmly drinking his wine within the tavern. And Dongbua Shuang, who had always been casual and disregarded the outside world, frowned at this moment. He looked up at those 3 protectors. With his void senses, he naturally knew that those 3 strange insects had entered the bodies of those 3 protectors. Those 3 protectors were currently dead. It's a pity that the venomous insects came too suddenly. He could not save these 3 pitiful protectors in time. Master has asked you to leave. Why aren't you leaving? Scram! The 3 protectors furiously roared. They simply walked into the tavern. The 7th prince and that handsome and devilish-looking male who were about to leave on the carriage were stunned when they saw that. You 3 fools, why aren't you leaving? Hurry up! The 7th prince angrily roared. And the handsome and devilish-looking male by the side had already noticed that something was amiss, not good. Not giving face to my master? Are you seeking death? Those 3 protectors roared. Even though they were walking, their speed was fast. They took just a few steps to reach where Dongbua Shuang was. Dongbua Shuang looked up. He placed his wine cup down and his gaze landed on those 3 protectors. Wang! An unseen ripple suddenly swept out. Pang! 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 The bodies of the 3 protectors instantly shattered. They dissipated in the world, revealing 3 insects of different colors. These 3 insects were unharmed. They had completely resisted against the suppression of Dongbua Shuaying's Scarlet Cloud domain. Chapter 1066. Under the invisible and terrifying ripples, the 3 insects with completely different auras were completely unharmed. The moment they appeared, the guards outside the tavern, the 7th prince, and the handsome man sitting in the chariot couldn't help but tremble, and a sense of fear and awe welled up in their hearts. Of the 3 insects, one was faintly discernible. It was a translucent silver poisonous insect. Another was a black insect. It seemed the most ordinary. The final insect was the one that instilled fear in the surrounding cultivators. It was a dark green insect that was currently emitting a horrifying fog. This fog naturally affected Dongbua Shuang and his servant Magic Dragon who were closest to it. Not good. Such a terrifying poisonous insect. The expression of the handsome devilish male changed greatly. There was once an unparalleled existence in the realm Heart Great Land who nurtured insects. He was called Devouring Realm Great Emperor. He had even opened up a unique space and sealed a large number of subordinates. He even bestowed some formidable poisonous insects to his subordinates, allowing them to fuse as one, allowing some of the weaker subordinates to become ultra-strong experts. That was during the period before the First War of the Ancient Nations. The realm Heart Great Land was incredibly chaotic, and many experts were scattered all over the place. Hence, the historical records were vague. Nonetheless, that devouring realm Great Emperor was ultimately an unparalleled existence comparable to Ancestor Fan. Hence, there were many records regarding him. Even now, many cultivators were searching for some historical remains left behind by this devouring realm Great Emperor. That's right. Devouring Realm Great Emperor had died before the First War of the Ancient Nations. The reason for his death was vague. There was the shadow of the myriad realm's ancient nation behind it. Because the absolute art that devouring realm great emperor created to nurture and control insects, the devouring realm true scripture, was currently in the hands of one of the 5 supreme ancestors of the myriad realm's ancient nation, Realm Beast King. Currently, almost all experts who specialized in controlling poisonous insects came from the myriad realm's ancient nation. An expert from the myriad realm's ancient nation? To deal against Ying Shan Snow Eagle from the Southern Cloud's sacred religion? The handsome devilish male felt his heart turning cold. He wanted to stay as far away from these 2 experts as possible. Nevertheless, the battle happened too quickly. The poisonous fog spread too quickly, and the surrounding space had been sealed. He could not escape in time. Poisonous insects? From the myriad realm's ancient nation? Dongbua Shuang was still sitting there, but a short stick appeared in his hand, and he started to casually knock on the ground with it. Although he was sitting in the same place, the tip of the short stick strangely appeared at every insect and knocked on them. Bang bang bang. It seemed like 3 random knocks, but there was a mysterious aura faintly dissipating from the knocks. Among the 3 poisonous insects, only the dark green insect that emitted the poisonous fog was immediately shattered into powder. Although the other 2 poisonous insects were smashed and rolled, they were not damaged at all. Dongbua Shuang was shocked. It seemed as if he was casually striking out, but in reality, he was executing one of the secret impartation techniques of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles, Arch Destruction. This was definitely a powerful and tyrannical move. This move, combined with the Crimson Cloud domain, avoided the weakness of a direct attack that could be easily blocked. Instead, it would appear directly in front of the enemy, and its power would completely explode. However, he only managed to kill 1 poisonous insect. This poisonous insect has such a strong body. The path of insect beasts is indeed terrifying. Dongbua Shuang was inwardly startled. Cultivators were extremely careful when refining their bodies. They would not allow themselves to be injured. If their soul was damaged or destroyed, they would die. But the insect beasts were different. The insect beasts could reproduce in large numbers, and even though it was rare to nurture a poisonous insect to a frightening level, it would merely be a loss if it died. Hence, the Tao of insect could be continuously researched and nurtured into different poisonous insects that specialized in different aspects. The Arch Destruction could break apart the cage, yet I could only destroy one of the 3 poisonous insects. The devouring realm true scripture is indeed formidable. Dongbua Shuang thought. Every single one of the supreme 5 ancestors from the myriad realm's ancient nation was frightening. Even the powerful summer wind ancient nation was vaguely suppressed by them. Die! Dongbua Shuang once again waved the short stick. Those 2 insects that were smashed by the Arch Destruction were once again struck by the short stick. The short stick seemed ordinary, yet in reality, it was a transformation of the Scarlet Cloud God's spear. It was not necessary for him to engage in close combat against these poisonous insects. Pooh! Pooh! The short stick struck its target once again. The faintly discernible silver poisonous insect trembled, yet it remained unharmed. As for the black insect, its body trembled violently. Blood leaked out from its mouth and nose, and its aura became significantly weaker. This is the first time I fought against a 10th level, piercing void. It is so difficult to kill insects. Dongbua Shuaying's eyes brightened. Void Pierce was the most ruthless and troublesome killing move in Crimson Cloud combat technique. Even battle formations were useless in front of it. Even if one wore some powerful secret treasures to protect themselves, Void Pierce could ignore the secret treasures and enter their bodies to destroy them. Ping ping ping. The short stick in Dongbua Shuaying's hand turned into an afterimage. In an instant, it struck the black insect 19 times, causing it to explode. Instead, it was Dongbua Shuaying who was unable to get close to the venomous silver insect with just 2 strikes, preventing it from escaping. There is such a unique insect. Dongbua Shuaying's eyes lit up as he stared at the faintly discernible silver poisonous insect. The silver poisonous insect wanted to attack, but Dongbu Shuang easily blocked it. Hua! First, he waved his hand. The entire space was flattened and turned into a painting. The silver poisonous insect also became part of the painting. However, the painting soon crumbled, and the silver poisonous insect continued to fly out. I can't kill it or capture it. So I have to use my illusory technique? Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. He knew that the owner of these poisonous insects could use them to understand the entire battle. Once he used his illusory technique, he would be exposed. Previously, although he used it against Chang Su Wang, Chang Su Wang was instantly killed without anyone noticing. However, since he dared to use it previously, he didn't mind it too much. After all, he had mastered the doppelganger technique, and there was no need for him to be so secretive. Such a unique insect. In order to capture it, it doesn't matter if I have to use my illusory technique. Dongbu Shuang looked at the faintly discernible silver poisonous insect with anticipation in his eyes. He sent a thought. Wang! The formless illusory technique swept over. No matter how heaven-defying a poisonous insect was, its will was unable to resist against Dongbu Shuang's illusory technique. Instantly, it froze in mid-air and started to fall. South, Dongbu Shuang stretched out his hand and grabbed the silver poisonous insect that he had destroyed. How unique! Dongbu Shuang looked at it carefully. With his void realm, under his observation, the faintly discernible body of the silver poisonous insect expanded rapidly, becoming like a huge continent. There were countless mysterious runes circulating on the body of this silver poisonous insect. These mysterious runes were naturally formed when the poisonous insect was being nurtured. This caused the silver poisonous insect to be innately compatible with the countless black fog spherical particles of the void. Each and every action of the silver poisonous insect would cause the black fog spherical particles to change. Even if it was attacked, it could borrow the power of the void to negate the attack. Even though it had not reached the pinnacle of voidification, Dongbu Shuang's unpredictable, piercing through void, this silver poisonous insect was able to negate about 98% of the force. The remaining force was easily withstood by its terrifying body. This voidification ability is compatible with the essence of the void. It is truly mystical. Dongbu Shuang had been bitterly comprehending the origin phase of the 5 phases sealing technique for many years. Now that he saw a mystical creature that could control the black fog spherical particles, he naturally could not help but want to capture it. Even though cultivation was mystical, origin worlds were similarly mystical. For instance, the destruction devils that were born in the origin world Primal Chaos Void were like General Mogu, they had reached the pinnacle of voidification at birth. Even in the realm Heart Great Land, an origin world, Shuang was able to nurture a poisonous insect that was so terrifying. On the contrary, if one wanted to cultivate to this level, it would be extremely difficult. Go, let us return. Dongbu Shuang stood up. Now that he had gotten his hands on the silver poisonous insect, he no longer had the mood to enjoy delicacies. He only wanted to enter closed-door cultivation to study the essence of the void. Yes. His servant, Magic Dragon, acknowledged, saying it was slow. In reality, Dongbu Shuang merely sat there. First, he used an unseen ripple to eliminate the 3 protectors that were controlled by him. Following that, he took up a short rod and struck 3 poisonous insects. No matter how the 3 poisonous insects tried to fly, the short rod would strangely land on their bodies. 2 were killed, and 1 was captured. As for the remnant poisonous fog, Shuang controlled it with his void domain and teleported it a few million kilometers high in the sky. Without the source of the poisonous insects controlling it, the strength of the poisonous fog would naturally weaken until it dissipated. The group of people outside the wine shop were all respectfully watching as that white-robed young man brought his servant away. Chapter 1067. Within a residence within the inner department of the Sky Sword Sect Palace, there was a black-robed expert seated cross-legged. Beneath his black robe was fog, and within the fog, there were poisonous insects flying about. His pair of eyes formed from red insects remained calm, exterminating a soul-leading poisonous insect in a single move. This power, he must have grasped the arch-destruction. He has grasped the 2 secret impartation techniques of the Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles. It seems he has grasped the avatar technique too. How troublesome. Since he has grasped the avatar technique, he is truly an undefeatable opponent. Like the famous Gong Liang Yi from the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, he could move unhindered in all directions with a single sword. He had contributed greatly to the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, yet he had fallen twice. Those 2 times were because Southern Cloud King could not save him in time. But even if he fell, he could easily make a comeback due to his avatars. The Power Devil insect has died so quickly. He has almost grasped the Scarlet Cloud combat technique as well. The pupils of the black-robed expert dilated. The Power Devil insect was named after the Power Devil. It was an extremely tyrannical insect, and it was also the poisonous insect he mainly nurtured. About 1/3 of the top-graded poisonous insects were Power Devil insects. This insect had incredibly strong bodies. Even 10th level experts had a hard time killing them. Furthermore, their attacks were incredibly violent. But the Scarlet Cloud combat technique was extremely vicious. Most could not resist against it even if one had a strong fleshy body or secret treasures. He did not have the Scarlet Cloud combat technique absolute art. He comprehended it with just a spear. The black-robed expert softly shook his head. The Void Dragon insect has died too. Illusory Realm. The strand of consciousness that the black-robed expert left in the 3 insects was extinguished. But he naturally did not care about this little loss. He has grasped the 2 secret impartation techniques, comprehended the Scarlet Cloud combat technique almost entirely, and has at least an 8th level Illusory Realm technique. The black-robed expert pondered. Naturally, Dongbua Shuang did not need to use his full strength to deal with a single poisonous insect. He merely unleashed an 8th level Illusory Realm technique to extinguish the consciousness of the poisonous insect. I have done almost everything. I have lost 3 formidable poisonous insects, and I have almost grasped the techniques of Yingshan Snow Eagle. Next, it should be time for them to act. The black-robed expert was relaxed. Even though this little loss was slightly painful, it was not hard to nurture more insects after spending more treasures. Figure out the enemy's background. The next step was to lay out a plan to assassinate Dongbua Shuang. An opponent that was easy to deal with could be dealt with openly, and it would also increase the reputation of the Sky Sword path. And Yingshan Snow Eagle was too hard to deal with, it was better to eliminate him in the dark. This time, the Sky Sword path had advanced into the Black Devil 4 nations, and with the support of 2 ancient nations, they were naturally well prepared. Get rid of him secretly. The only thing we need to be careful of is his Illusory Realm technique. But he had cultivated for a short period, and the Southern Cloud's sacred religion did not have any formidable Mirage and Illusory Realm absolute art. Hence, it should not be that strong. Furthermore, ever since the birth of Yingshan Snow Eagle, not a single Mirage and Illusory Realm 10th level secret treasure was sold in the Realm Heart Great Land. Most likely, his Illusory Realm had not reached the 9th level. Otherwise, that old man's Southern Cloud King would have bought a Mirage and Illusory Realm secret treasure for his disciple. To be able to deal with Chang Su Wang, even if the Illusion Realm isn't at the 9th level, it should be at the peak of the 8th level. The experts from the Sky Sword sect began discussing in the dark. Even though the Scarlet Cloud combat technique and Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles were formidable, they were not afraid of them. Even Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master was killed in the past. Being one of the 10 great religions, the Sky Sword sect could naturally deal against a 10th level expert if they wanted to. The only headache was the Illusory Realm. If it was at the 10th level, that would be truly frightening. Under the envelopment of the Illusory Realm, if one could withstand it, one would live. Otherwise, one would die. Fortunately, absolute arts at the 10th level were too precious, and they were not taught to outsiders. It was impossible for Ying Snow Eagle to learn them. Only by relying on secret treasures could one hope to reach the 10th level. Over the past billions of years, not a single 10th level mirage and illusory realm secret treasure was sold. Hence, everyone was still at ease. If there were any secret treasures sold, they would most likely have to investigate further. If they ascertained that Dongbui Shuang had an illusory realm technique at the 10th level, they would most likely give up on this plan of advancing into the Sky Sword sect. An illusory realm expert at the 10th level could practically sweep across 99% of 10th level experts. Every single one of them was an existence that could cause the expressions of others to change. The Sky Sword sect and the Southern Cloud sacred religion would likely start negotiating again. The plan has been set. A total of 5 10th level experts will be working together. The few of them have arrived. We can act anytime. Ying Snow Eagle is currently in closed-door cultivation within the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Let's wait until he leaves the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace before acting. After all, the Sacred Palace is filled with many arrays. It will be disadvantageous to us if we act there. The Sky Sword sect was extremely patient. 5 experts. 1 came from the Myriad Realms ancient nation, 2 from the Fan clan, and 2 from the Sky Sword sect. These were specially deployed according to the assassination plan. Not just the Fan clan or the Myriad Realms ancient nation, they had many experts under them. Many 10th level experts cultivated extremely terrifying secret impartation techniques. No choice. They had a huge backing. The stronger they were, the greater the advantage the ancient nation had. Because they had many formidable secret impartation techniques, any cosmos god at the same level from an ancient nation could deal against several experts from outside the nation. This was also the reason why many experts from the 6 great ancient nations disdained those from outside the nation. Within the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace, within a meditation room, Dongbui Shuang was currently in closed-door cultivation. According to the records, this insect beast should be called the Void Dragon insect. Dongbui Shuang looked at the floating corpse of an indistinct silver venomous insect. For the sake of research, he had even used the intelligence system of the Southern Cloud sacred religion to collect information regarding this insect beast. The cultivation technique to nurture venomous insects was precious and hard to find. But it was easy to obtain information on some common knowledge regarding venomous insects. There were a total of 39 void-related insects recorded in the records. The Void Dragon insect was merely one of them. Interesting. It could actually control and influence the black fog spherical particles, allowing its voidification ability to reach such a standard. In terms of voidification, it isn't any weaker than me. Dongbui Shuang sighed inwardly. His voidification ability was likely beyond that of his senior disciple brother Gong Liang Yi and senior disciple sister Empress Ghostly. On one hand, it was the 10th level Grand Perfection Southern Cloud sacred body. On the other hand, the accumulation of Dongbui Shuang's research on voidification was too profound. The Walker's hidden secret specialized in voidification. Emperor Jiuyuan's 4 diagrams also contained an inheritance that allowed him to reach the pinnacle of voidification. He had even comprehended the scaled armor of General Mo Gu. He wanted to grasp the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Even though he had yet to achieve it, his voidification realm was extremely high. Using the Southern Cloud's sacred body to execute the voidification technique, it wasn't any weaker than this Void Dragon insect. But my direction is to fuse with the essence of the void and become one with it. Dongbui Shuang thought, yet I have never controlled the essence of the void before. Control? Control? Dongbui Shuang pondered. This was another direction. He wanted to research on different aspects of the Tao of Void. After all, different paths led to the same goal. His goal wasn't just to become a cosmos god. He wanted to kill the sacred master in the future. No matter if it was to take revenge for his teacher or for the cultivators who were harmed by the sacred master in the primal chaos void, he would still die in the hands of the sacred master if he did not have the realm heart order. Hence, this person had to be killed. The pursuit of the sacred master was to control all sentient beings. It was something that every cultivator who pursued for grand transcendence could not tolerate. Life and death were not in his control. With a single order from the sacred master, he could even kill his close friends and family. Dongbua Shuang felt that living like this was no better than death. For the sake of himself, he would harm all cultivators. Many wanted to kill the sacred master, but it's a pity that he was still the strongest expert in the primal chaos void. It is an opportunity for me to come to the realm Heart Great Land. I have to improve my strength in a down-to-earth manner. Dongbua Shuang thought. He no longer thought about it. The strength of the sacred master was too frightening, and he was still too far away from him. As he researched on the corpse of the void dragon insect, half a month passed. The Sky Sword sect remained quiet and patient. The patience of the cultivators was huge. They had dispatched 5 10th level experts specifically to deal against Dongbua Shuang. Naturally, they were patient. They wanted to eliminate Shan Snow Eagle in one fell swoop and let the Southern Cloud sacred religion feel pain. Even though the avatars of Shan Snow Eagle could be cultivated back after being eliminated, many treasures were required to reach grand perfection in the Southern Cloud sacred body. Furthermore, the Scarlet Cloud God Spear was precious too. The moment he died, it would be snatched away. These naturally made the Southern Cloud sacred religion and Dongbua Shuang feel pain. And then, after researching for half a month, Dongbua Shuang had gained many insights. Not enough. Just a single void dragon insect isn't enough. Dongbua Shuang could feel his understanding of the essence of the void improving. He immediately gave an order through the Southern Cloud sacred religion to place an order with the Fan clan in the fiery Zhao capital. I require the void lineage of the insect race. Other than the void dragon insect, the other 38 insect corpses. I only need one of each, and they must be at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Dongbua Shuang ordered. Fan clan, being a superpower with a foundation stronger than the Moonflower Ancient Nation and Towering Sky Ancient Nation, there were many factions within. They had many claws and fangs. They helped the Sky Sword sect and extracted many benefits from them. There were also those who befriended the Southern Cloud King. There were also assassins, and a large number of merchants. Hence, even if they became enemies with some experts from the Fan clan, they could similarly befriend other experts from the Fan clan. After all, there were all kinds of birds in the forest. This forest of the Fan clan was too big. There were too many experts, and there were too many factions too. They had more experts than the entire Black Devil Great Lake. If not for the 3 religious masters of the Black Devil Great Lake relying on the unique environment of the Black Devil Great Lake, they would have been hunted down by the Fan clan. Brother Snow Eagle, I've just inquired. The Fan clan's shop over at the fiery Zhao capital doesn't have any primal chaos realm insect corpses of the void lineage. Because very few of them are needed here, they have to be transferred from the Summer Wind Ancient Nation, and it will take half a day for them to be sent over. 38 different void lineage insect corpses of the pinnacle of primal chaos realm will cost a total of 130 million cosmos crystals. Marquis Chu Ming transmitted. All right. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Insect corpses were commonly traded. Because the most common way for those insects to improve was to devour the corpses of other insects. Hence, insect corpses were frequently traded. Living poisonous insects at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm were expensive, and dead ones were much cheaper. But for 38 different species, each of them would cost 130 million cosmos crystals. One could imagine that the Tao of insect required a vast amount of resources. Just half a day later. Brother Snow Eagle. Marquis Chu Ming brought along a manager from the Fan clan in the fiery Zhao capital. He was here to deliver the goods. Sir Snow Eagle. This manager passionately passed over a light green bottle. Dongbua Shuang received the bottle. He pulled out the cork and extended his senses. There were 38 different insect corpses within, and all of them had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Dongbua Shuang did not doubt the credibility of the Fan Clan shop. Chapter 1068. The Fan Clan was ranked in the top 3 across the entire Realm Heart Great Land in terms of selling treasures. Being a shop, their reputation was fundamental. Sir Snow Eagle, feel free to instruct me if you need anything. There are many rare treasures in the Realm Heart Great Land that my Fan Clan doesn't have. That manager passionately said. And then, Dongbua Shuang acknowledged. He threw over an ordinary storage wristband that contained 130 million cosmos crystals. Marquis Chu Ming, many thanks for your help. I'll be entering closed-door cultivation now. There's no need to disturb me if there isn't anything important. Dongbua Shuang instructed before rushing into closed-door cultivation. Hong Long Long. The palace door closed. Dongbua Shuang sat there cross-legged by himself. He opened the light green bottle, causing many void lineage insect corpses to fly out. All of them had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. They had different appearances and sizes. Some were as big as a mountain. Dongbua Shuang controlled the void. Even though the space within the palace hall wasn't huge, he was able to open up a small space with the insect corpses within. These life forms are mysterious. In my hometown, the Tao of insects is much weaker. Dongbua Shuang sighed inwardly. In the primal chaos void, none of the Tao of insects had reached the cosmos god realm. And in the realm Heart Great Land, that devouring realm Great Emperor had reached an unparalleled level in the Tao of insects, comparable to Ancestor Fan and the others. Nonetheless, he fell. Ever since the existence of the realm Heart Great Land, several unparalleled existences had fallen. There were even more at the level of Scarlet Cloud Paragon Master. No choice. There were too many experts here, and they had all sorts of techniques. It was normal for unparalleled existences to fall in a battle at the apex. And then, Dongbua Shuang carefully studied them. Including the void dragon insect, these 39 species were all species that had reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in the long history of the realm Heart Great Land. Every single one of them had gone through countless failures before succeeding. They contained the crystallization of the predecessor's wisdom. Mysterious. Every single one of them is mysterious. Dongbua Shuang became more and more infatuated as he looked at them. Every insect that could reach the pinnacle of primal chaos realm had a unique characteristic. There were a total of 25 types of black fog spherical particles that could manipulate the essence of the void. As for those that were proficient in voidification, there were a total of 37 of them. It couldn't be helped. As a void-type insect beast, it was almost instinctive for it to be proficient in voidification. Voidification actually has so many tricks. Dongbua Shuaying's eyes lit up. If he were to immerse himself in cultivation for billions of years, he probably wouldn't be able to think of so many directions. With the insect beast's corpse in front of him, he came to a sudden realization. Without pointing it out, it was very difficult to comprehend it. At that moment, Dongbua Shuang was in a frenzy. Reaching a bottleneck in one's cultivation was a very painful thing, because no matter how hard one thought, there would be no results. On the other hand, the feeling of constant enlightenment was very wonderful. He could feel himself improving at all times, and his understanding of the void was constantly improving. No matter how long he cultivated, he would not feel tired. The corpses of each void worm beast represented their own uniqueness. His understanding of the 5 phases sealing technique's true form was also gradually increasing. His understanding of voidification was also improving. Strange, why is he in closed-door cultivation for so long? Why isn't he coming out? Force him out. The experts sent over by the Sky Sword sect were quite patient. After all, with their strength, they could enter closed-door cultivation for hundreds of millions of years. But currently, it was a crucial moment in the battle between the Sky Sword sect and the Southern Cloud sacred religion. At this moment, that Ying Shan Snow Eagle actually entered closed-door cultivation for several 100,000 years, that was too daring, right? Unless he thought that the Sky Sword sect would not act. On the 90,000th year of Dongbush Shui Ying's closed-door cultivation, a sharp claw appeared mysteriously amidst the heavy rain. It directly tore apart the array protection of the fiery Zhao capital's southern cloud sacred palace, snatching away that painting that had always been hanging there. This sacred palace was much bigger than the southern cloud's sacred palace in Ardent Fire City. Its array was much more formidable too. Only a cosmos god could break it apart. Clearly, it was a cosmos god who acted in the dark. It's a pity that Dongbush Shuang remained in closed-door cultivation. Gradually, the Sky Sword sect began provoking the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, increasing the number of battles with them. But because they were wary of Dongbush Shuang, the provocation from the Sky Sword sect was not too huge. The truly formidable experts were not willing to act because they were not confident of dealing against Ying Shan Snow Eagle. They only needed to provoke Ying Shan Snow Eagle into appearing. By then, they could kill him in one fell swoop. Marquis Chu Ming was ordered by Dongbush Shuang not to disturb him unless there was something important. Hence, his closed-door cultivation was very quiet. I have been in closed-door cultivation for 300,000 years, yet I have yet to grasp the origin phase. Instead, I am approaching grand perfection in the pinnacle of voidification. Shuang held on to the faint green jade bottle. Those void insect corpses all flew into the bottle. Following that, Shuang stuffed the cork back into the bottle before leaving. Hong Long Long, the door opened. Dongbush Shuang walked out. He stood within the courtyard looking at the sky. It was currently late at night. This realm heart great land was different from the primal chaos void. There was neither a sun nor a moon here. In the middle of the night, only the light of the guardian formation above the fiery Zhao nation's capital could barely illuminate the capital. Pinnacle of voidification. Dongbush Shuang sighed. These void insects had given him many inspirations in the aspect of voidification. He had improved greatly in this aspect, and had reached an unfathomable stage in the aspect of voidification. Dongbush Shuang reckoned that he should be comparable to his teacher Gu Qi in the aspect of voidification. He was just a single strand away from reaching grand perfection. In terms of the grasp of voidification, Dongbush Shuang felt that he had surpassed almost all void insects. Now, I just need a little bit of enlightenment to break through the final strand of obstruction. Dongbush Shuang was currently thinking about the scaled armor of General Mo Gu. Because only the inscriptions on that scaled armor were at the primal chaos realm level and had reached grand perfection. It was concise and filled with a mystical sense of beauty. It was much more concise than Emperor Julian's cultivation technique to the pinnacle of voidification and void primogenitor's cultivation technique. Even though the void insects had their own specialties, they had not reached the pinnacle of voidification. They were merely a reference for Dongbush Shuang to think in different directions. I'm just lacking a final breakthrough. Dongbush Shuang pondered for a moment before temporarily throwing it to the back of his mind. Origin phase. Dongbush Shuang felt helpless too. It was truly difficult to reach the pinnacle of voidification. Even Southern Cloud King and Emperor Jiuyun could not create a cultivation technique that allowed them to grasp the pinnacle of voidification at the primal chaos realm. Naturally, they did not have an opportunity like Dongbush Shuang to research on the scaled armor of General Mo Gu. Void primogenitor might succeed if he researched on it for a longer period. It's a pity that Dongbush Shuang could not return now. But origin phase was comparatively easier. After all, he only needed to reach small success. There was no need for him to reach grand perfection or grand perfection. I've researched on too many void insects, and pondered on too many directions. This has messed up my heart. After all, I only need to reach small success. Dongbush Shuang thought, calm down, calm down. I should continue researching on the direction that I am most confident in. I should be able to succeed by then. Brother Snow Eagle. Marquis Chu Ming hurried over. He sensed that the door to the closed door of Dongbush Shuiying's palace had opened. Marquis Chu Ming, I'm going out for a walk. Dongbua Shuang said, to relax. You have to be more careful. It is fine within the sacred palace, but who knows if the Sky Sword sect might have some hidden techniques to deal with you outside. Marquis Chu Ming reminded. Rest assured. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. He clearly did not care about this. Furthermore, in his heart, he was still vaguely looking forward to a battle. A battle that could give him sufficient pressure might allow him to break through. As Dongbua Shuang stealthily left the Southern Cloud's sacred palace and walked alone on the streets of the fiery Zhao capital, even though it was night time, many shops were still open. Many restaurants were still bustling with activity. After all, to cultivators, there was not much difference between night and day. And in the surroundings, there were naturally scouts arranged by the Sky Sword sect. Discovered Yingshan Snow Eagle. Yingshan Snow Eagle has appeared. He left the Southern Cloud's sacred palace by himself. Many pieces of information were immediately reported upwards. Chapter 1069. In a hall of the Sky Sword Sect Palace. 7 figures gathered here. The one sitting at the head of the table was naturally the person in charge of the Black Devil Fornations, Thunder King Mo Chao. Mo Chao was dressed in a purple robe as he sat there with a smile on his face as he looked around. The surrounding experts were all 10th level experts, and their origins were extraordinary. The 3 on the left were from the Myriad Realm's ancient kingdom. Aside from the mysterious expert with venomous insects under his black robe, the other 2 were also extraordinary. One was a youth with dazzling red hair, and there was a wisp of flame rising from his forehead. Anyone with a bit of insight would be able to tell that he was a core disciple of one of the 2 most mysterious clans in the Myriad Realm's ancient kingdom, the Blazing Clan. Only those with a sufficiently pure bloodline would be able to naturally manifest a divine flame. The black-robed expert, the core expert of the Blaze Clan, and a short-haired man draped in a black cloak. The other side. They were the man with dark red skin and 2 experts from the Sky Sword Path. Your Highness Blaze Wind, this time, we'll have to rely on you. If you can't suppress that Yingshan Snow Eagle, it'll be hard for us to kill him within a short period. Thunder King Mo Chao said, once the battle drags on, Southern Cloud King will be able to lend a helping hand. Don't worry. The dazzling red-haired teenager nonchalantly said, Southern Cloud King received the news first before acting from such a great distance. We have already attacked several times and should have exterminated that Yingshan Snow Eagle. At their level, the speed at which they fought was too fast. In the blink of an eye, they had attacked several times. Moreover, we even invited Rain Dust Walker this time. The dazzling red-haired youth looked at the short-haired man in a black cloak. The black-cloaked, short-haired man smiled and said, Your Highness is overpraising me. There is also General Fan Chu Hu, one of the 100 battle devil gods of the Fan clan. With Rain Dust Walker and brother Fan Chu Hu working together, there naturally wouldn't be any mishaps. The dazzling red-haired teenager said. The crimson-skinned horned man who was eating metal and stone laughed out loud as well. Your Highness Blaze Wind, you praise me too much. Fan Chu Hu. In the past, the Fan clan's skyrending Great Paragon had a total of 99 ultra-powerful experts under him. It was skyrending Great Paragon who obtained a piece of rare and unique Scarlet Devil 9 Dream Beast core stone after it died under a unique opportunity. In the end, he relied on it to reconstruct the 99 experts, and all of them were at the 10th level strength. These 99 were also known as the 100 Battle Demonic Gods. During the later stages of the First War of the Ancient Nations, they had already made many contributions. Each of their bodies was incomparably tyrannical, and their strength was boundless. However, after a long period of time, there were only 30 or so 100 battle demonic gods left. General Chu who will be working with you in a little while, the black-cloaked man said with a faint smile. It's all thanks to Rain Dust Walker. I just had to put in a bit of effort. Fan Chu who was also very polite. The three of them were talking. On the other hand, he didn't pay much attention to the other two experts in this operation. Because 10th level experts had differences in strength too. If one grasped a formidable secret impartation or a horrifying secret treasure, it was normal for him to fight against 3 to 4 other 10th level experts. For instance, Dongbua Shuang grasped the formidable Scarlet Cloud combat technique and a Southern Cloud 12 sacred styles at the same time. He also had a Scarlet Cloud God Spear. If he fought with White Cloud Devil Master, he would be able to suppress him completely. Even 3 to 4 of them could not do anything to him. One of the 100 battle demonic gods, Fan Chu Hu. The noble core disciple of the Blaze clan, His Highness Blaze Wind. And a walker under one of the 5 ancestors from the Myriad Realms ancient nation, Drifter, Rain Dust Walker. The origins of these 3 were huge. Comparatively speaking, the 2 experts sent by the Sky Sword sect had much smaller origins. The Myriad Realms ancient nation and Summer Wind ancient nation are both arrogant. They are looking down on us 2 brothers. The 2 experts seated there, one wearing a water blue robe and the other wearing a fiery red robe, transmitted to each other. They did not say anything at all. Alright, Shan Snow Eagle is currently walking casually on the streets. Fellow cultivators can move anytime. Thunder King Imo Chow chuckled. His eyes were filled with expectation. I'll wait here for the good news from fellow cultivators. And then the dazzling red-haired teenager stood up. Let's not waste any more time. Let's set off now. Alright. Rain Dust Walker and Fan Chu Hu both stood up. The 2 experts from the Sky Sword sect also stood up. Go. Who? They disappeared stealthily. On the streets, Dongbua Shuang leisurely walked by himself. The surrounding air was cool. Looking at the bustling scene of shops and the occasional luxurious carriages flying across the sky, Dongbua Shuang felt much more relaxed. In his mind, bits and pieces of comprehension towards the origin phase of the 5 phases sealing technique began appearing and colliding with each other. Hua. It was silent. Dongbua Shuang felt the surrounding streets becoming much quieter. Sounds transmitted over from afar had become low and deep. His movements had also slowed down. Not good. How could Dongbua Shuang not know that he had fallen into a trap? In the distant sky, that dazzling red-haired teenager stood there. He pointed in the direction of Dongbua Shuang, causing time to descend and envelop Dongbua Shuang. This His Highness Blaze Wind sneered, controlling time is a talent that I awakened. Furthermore, I have cultivated the scroll of the past from the 3 realms technique. I'm afraid you're still lacking if you want to break free from my time domain. Kill. Die. At this moment, a water blue-robed expert and a fiery red-robed expert acted at the same time. Everything was going according to their plan. It was going smoothly. Open, open, open. Dongbua Shuang understood that he had fallen into the enemy's time domain. Here, the flow of time would be controlled by others. In reality, the stronger one was, the harder it would be to control the surrounding time. Just like back in the Great Void Heaven Temple, the price to accelerate the time of a primal chaos expert was huge. Furthermore, that was the interior of a powerful secret treasure that was deliberately refined. If the enemy wanted to control a region of the outside world, especially when Dongbua Shuang had to resist, the difficulty would be much higher. Hong Long Long, many circular void maelstrom appeared on the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body. These maelstrom were like 3 revolving void stairs that revolved around the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body. It was none other than the protective technique of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique. Break. Wielding the Scarlet Cloud God Spear, Shuang stirred the surrounding void, causing it to rumble. He did not even have the time to execute the arch destruction or other techniques before the enemy's attack arrived. Because the flow of time was too slow, causing his movements to be slow as well. He could barely execute his protective technique and domain with a single thought. Hua! A deep blue fog immediately invaded his body. It came too quickly and was too cold. It was so cold that Dongbu Shuang felt his entire body stiffen. At the same time, a surge of fiery red particles invaded his body. It was too hot, so hot that his body was about to melt. These two attacks were too fast. Furthermore, they completely enveloped the time domain, and Shuang was trapped within the time domain. He was forced to endure the attacks. One was extremely cold, and the other was extremely hot. They were all 10th level techniques. GG. The left half of his body was incomparably cold. It felt as if every single cell particle was about to stop fluctuating. Under this coldness, everything was about to stop. Chi. The right half of his body was too hot. Shuang felt his body was about to melt. Following that, this horrifying heat clashed with another wave of extreme cold within his body. Wang! What a fellow! He isn't dead yet? Regardless of whether it was His Highness Blaze Wind who controlled the time domain or other experts, even the black-robed expert and Thunder King Mo Chao who were watching the battle from afar, all of them felt startled. Because one was extremely cold and the other extremely hot. Furthermore, they were both 10th level techniques, and Shuang could not resist them at all. The damage dealt to his body was too horrifying. It was 10 times more terrifying than simply resisting the extreme cold or heat. Even Grand Perfection Southern Cloud's sacred body should have directly collapsed. But Dongbu Shuang withstood it. Cold, hot. Dongbu Shuang felt uncomfortable as his body suffered from the opposite stimulation. Yet his body withstood it. Break. He could even forcibly control his body. He pierced out with the spear in his hand into the void. Hong, arch destruction. Even though an extremely small crack appeared, and a mysterious aura was emitting from it, that crack instantly closed up. The entire time domain trembled for a moment before remaining stable. General Chu Hu. That black-cloaked short-haired male chuckled. Rain Dust Walker. Fan Chu Hu was calm. He had experienced many massacres since the First War of the Ancient Nations until now. To him, this situation was merely playing around. Hong. The two of them acted at the same time. A dark green great hammer appeared in the hands of the black-cloaked short-haired male. He waved the great hammer soundlessly. Everywhere it passed, it did not cause any fluctuations. The wind did not move, and neither did the dust move. The great hammer silently smashed towards Dongbu Shuang. And Fan Chu Hu simply extended his hand. His palm expanded, and an enormous scarlet bronze palm smashed over. Hong Long, the void was torn apart, and many waves were formed in the surroundings. This power was much more violent and ferocious than any previous move. It was likely that ordinary cosmos gods could not compare to this palm. The tyrannical reputation of the 100-battle devil god was forged through countless massacres. Two famous existences had unleashed their killing moves at the same time. One was silent, and the other was filled with power. Both descended at the same time. Chapter 1070. Not good. Shuang could not help but feel his heart tightening as he faced the seemingly ordinary great hammer and the enormous scarlet palm with a heaven-toppling might. He felt a sense of threat rising from the unseen world. Previously, even though he was affected by the time domain and was then attacked by the two opposing 10th-level techniques of water and fire, he did not feel any threat at all even though his body could withstand it. At this moment, he felt it. This was the true killing move of this sneak attack. It is the Rain Dust Walker under one of the 5 ancestors of the Myriad Realm's ancient nation, Drifter. Is that one of the 100 battle devil gods, Fan Chu Hu? Dongbu Shuang recognized the other party. He immediately transmitted a request for help. Teacher, I am being ambushed. At the moment when the time domain descended, the surrounding space spanning more than 50 million kilometers had been completely isolated. Just like during the blood sacrifice at the Ardent Fire City, the city was completely isolated. This secret treasure that could isolate and seal was extremely expensive. Ordinary cosmos gods could not afford it. It was specially bestowed by Sky Sword King for this mission. Clearly, it was to prevent Dongbush Xueying from escaping using that destructive realm teleportation technique. Of course, Dongbush Xueying still had an avatar left behind in the capital. He could still call for help. Hong Long Long, two terrifying powers descended at the same time. Even though Dongbush Xueying tried his best to display his spear techniques to defend, his time flow was too slow, and his movements were too slow. That great hammer easily evaded Dongbush Xueying's spear and penetrated through the 3 void maelstrom stairs surrounding his body before smashing down on the body of Dongbush Xueying. This protective technique of the Scarlet Cloud combat technique was constantly being attacked by the water and fire killing moves, greatly reducing its power. This seemingly ordinary hammer was merely weakened by 30% to 40% by the protective technique. The rest of the attack landed on the body of Dongbush Xueying. Rain Dust Walker also felt the sensation of smashing into the void, voidification. Pang! Almost at the same time. The giant copper palm slammed down, and the protective spiral staircase completely collapsed. The long spear in his hand was directly smashed into his body. Then, the giant palm slammed into his body, and his body rumbled. Rain Dust Walker's great hammer was light as a feather, yet it carried with it a heavy force that smashed into his body and even his soul, causing his body that was already battered by the fire and water to feel extremely uncomfortable. What followed was a crushing strike from the copper palm. Being a 100-battle devil god, Fan Chu Hu was an ultra-powerful expert whose body had been modified. He did not rely on himself to reach the 10th level. Therefore, he was somewhat similar to a demonic servant. Of course, he was ultimately still a cultivator and did not need to recognize a master. But his techniques were generally not at the 8th or 9th level standard. Nevertheless, his pure strength and speed were frightening, surpassing that of ordinary cosmos gods. In addition, his body was the best at charging and killing in battle. Buzz! Under the continuous barrage of attacks, Dongbush Xueying felt like his mind was buzzing. What? Not dead yet? How is that possible? His Highness Blaze Wind, Rain Dust Walker, Fan Chu Hu, the 2 water and fire emissaries, as well as the black-robed expert and Thunder King Imo Chao who were watching the battle in the dark, were utterly shocked. According to their plan, this was the joint attack that they thought would be powerful enough to kill Yingshan Snow Eagle. Under the time domain, Dongbush Xueying's speed became extremely slow. He could not retaliate at all and could only receive the attacks passively. The combination of fire and water was a 10th level technique, and they were completely opposite. When they worked together, the power was frightening. They even guessed that this might cause Snow Eagle to die. After that, the 100-battle devil god Fan Chu Hu and Rain Dust Walker were even more formidable when they worked together. The 2 of them were famous for suppressing others head-on. In their opinion, even if Dongbush Xueying did not die previously, his body was much weaker. Facing the 2 suppressive attacks, Dongbush Xueying's body would definitely crumble apart. Hong Long Long, a huge crater had already been formed on the street. Within the crater, a figure bent over and raised his head. His eyes were filled with fury. Damn! Dongbush Xueying was furious and sullen at the same time. It had been a long time since he felt so sullen. He clearly had strength, yet under the time domain, his speed was much slower than the other party. He could not defend against the other party's attacks at all. Layers of energy ripples were continuously reverberating in his body. Pooh! Dongbush Xueying spurted out fresh blood. Blood was even seeping out from the surface of his body. Even with the Scarlet Cloud combat technique and the 10th level Grand Perfection Southern Cloud sacred body, Dongbush Xueying would most likely lose his life under such joint attacks. Fortunately, his voidification had been deduced to an unfathomable realm. It had surpassed all void lineage insect beasts at the pinnacle of primal chaos and was comparable to his teacher Gu Qi. He was just a hair's breadth away from the true pinnacle of voidification. With such voidification, Dongbush Xueying was able to dissipate most of the attacks. Nevertheless, he was still injured in the end. Kill. Continue killing. He is already heavily injured. Hurry up. Even though they were shocked that their joint attack failed, they understood that time was precious. Hong, die. His Highness Blaze Wind had been controlling the time domain. The fire and water emissaries continued their joint attack. As for Fan Chu-Hu and Rain Dust Walker, they felt humiliated and furious. Sky-tearing claw. Fan Chu-Hu roared. His palms turned into claws that tore apart the heaven and earth. This was an extremely ruthless claw technique that his master, Sky-tearing Great Paragon, had specially created for the 100 battle demonic gods like them. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Be annihilated. Rain Dust Walker was also furious. As a walker under the Drifters sect, he had his own pride. He swung his great hammer. Wang, the air current that streaked across the void produced a peculiar sound that resembled the sound of a flute. The sound even contained some charm that caused one to fall into a deep slumber, causing one to faintly feel as though one had fallen into eternal darkness. Rumble, the 5 great experts attacked consecutively and attacked 3 rounds. His body's aura did not weaken. At the very least, he still has more than half of his vitality. It's too late. Hurry up and leave. His Highness Blaze Wind, who had been controlling the time domain, immediately shouted. Go. 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 Even though they were unwilling, they did not hesitate. So. All of them disappeared. They were very clear that even though the Southern Cloud King had a high status, he would still intervene to save his disciple when his disciple was in danger. If he were to casually sweep the 5 of them when he intervened, they would be doomed. Under that situation, it would not be considered as bullying the weak. It was merely a slight venting of anger. But if they were to escape, the Southern Cloud King would chase after them. That would be embarrassing. Experts who stood at the apex in the realm Heart Great Land were bound by some hidden rules. After all, there were ultra-strong experts in every region. Like the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and Summer Wind Ancient Nation, they were much stronger than the Southern Cloud King. Furthermore, these hidden rules were imposed because all parties were apprehensive. If they were truly small and weak superpowers, they could just sweep through them directly. How would they be qualified to talk about hidden rules with superpowers like the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation? Being qualified to talk about hidden rules was something to be proud of. Naturally, the Southern Cloud King had to abide by these hidden rules too. Hong, the shockwaves from the battle spread in all directions. Many light rays descended from the sky. That was the light emitted by the array protecting the capital of the fiery Zhao Nation. Cough, cough. Dongbua Shuang coughed out more blood from his throat. He flew out from the deep pit. He hovered in midair as he observed his surroundings. The shockwaves did not affect a huge area, but there were still several cultivator residences that were destroyed. Why are they so unrestrained when fighting within the capital? Dongbua Shuang felt even more furious when he saw that. This was too sullen. From start to end, he did not manage to retaliate at all. Naturally, everything happened too quickly. Every 10th level expert merely executed 3 moves. How fast was that? Furthermore, he was still within the time domain. Hence, his actions were even slower. Snow Eagle, you should return and rest first. The Sky Sword sect actually mobilized so many experts to deal against you. Very good. If I did not retaliate, I would have been underestimated. Southern Cloud King's voice sounded by the ears of Dongbua Shuang. His voice was filled with fury. Teacher, I'll find them after a few days. Dongbua Shuang replied. You don't have to care about this. Just rest well first. Southern Cloud King stood at the apex of the realm Heart Great Land. He naturally had his own standards for doing things. Just as he finished speaking, Dongbua Shuang felt the unseen aura leaving. Teacher is going to interfere. Dongbua Shuang thought. He had always been the one dealing with the matter of the Sky Sword sect invading the fiery Zhao nation. It had been several 100,000 years, and the Southern Cloud King had been watching calmly as the matter developed. If he suffered a loss, he would naturally interfere. Clearly, he felt that his disciple alone was insufficient to deal with the Sky Sword sect. Chapter 1071. Fiery Zhao Capital, outside the entrance of the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Marquis Chu Ming and several other disciples had been waiting here for a long time. Because the battlefield was completely isolated, there were no large fluctuations when they were attacked. However, after the other party escaped, the aftermath of the battle alarmed more than half of the experts in the city. Senior Brother Snow Eagle. The group of disciples greeted him respectfully. Marquis Chu Ming looked at Dongbua Shuaing with concern. "I'm fine," Dongbua Shuaing said before entering the Southern Cloud Sacred Palace. Seeing the back figure of Dongbua Shuaing, Marquis Chu Ming and the others did not dare to say anything. They could feel that this absolute genius, Yingshan Snow Eagle, was not in a good mood at this moment. In the chamber, Dongbua Shuaing sat alone with his legs crossed. Even though the 5 great experts who came this time were shocked that they could not kill this Yingshan Snow Eagle and felt that this Snow Eagle was too resilient, Dongbua Shuaing himself felt sullen because he was being beaten from start to end. He wanted to give the enemy a arch destruction or a piercing void, yet he could not do so in time due to the flow of time. Even with my level of strength, I've been trapped in the domain of time all this time, unable to break out. Dongbua Shuaing was startled too. Most 10th level experts in the Tao of Time would not be so heaven-defying. His Highness Blaze Wind is a core disciple from one of the 2 great clans in the Myriad Realms' ancient nation, the Blaze clan. Dongbua Shuaing naturally recognized that dazzling red-haired young man. The wisp of flame between his eyebrows was too eye-catching. The core disciples of the Blaze clan possessed a sufficiently dense bloodline, and they were able to awaken their heaven-defying innate talent. Coupled with their innate talent and cultivation of the corresponding ultimate techniques, their combat strength would naturally be terrifying. As for those who couldn't awaken, it could not be considered a core anymore. The reason why he had such heaven-defying talent was because the Blaze clan's patriarch was the only one among the Myriad Realms' ancient kingdom's 5 ancestors who had reached the invincible realm through body refinement. 100 Battle Demon God. Rain Dust Walker. Dongbua Shuaing really felt that he was close to death just now. With each round of attacks, he would lose close to 10% of his strength. It would only take 11 or 12 rounds of attacks for him to die. Those 2 experts who specialized in water and fire seemed to be the weakest. But when they worked together, their diametrically opposite energies had weakened his Southern Cloud sacred body. Just like how a weapon would become brittle after encountering water and fire, it would be easier for it to disintegrate if it was struck by a heavy blow. Although he didn't lose any life force after being hit by the water and fire, his body was weakened, which made 100 Battle Demon God and Rain Dust Walker's attacks more effective. With every strike, he could smell the scent of death. It also made him try his best to voidify, allowing more power to be channeled into nothingness. If one could reach the pinnacle of voidification, one with the essence of the void, then these attacks would not be able to hurt him. Just a little bit more to fuse with the essence of the void? Dongbua Shuaing was deep in thought. His teacher, Southern Cloud King, acted very quickly. On the 2nd day after Shuaing was ambushed, a group of experts had already killed their way into the Sky Sword Sect Palace. Because His Highness Blaze Wind, Rain Dust Walker, and the others knew that there might be a counterattack, they naturally hid within the Sky Sword Path Palace. If not for the superpower behind them ordering them to help the Sky Sword sect, they would have long escaped without a trace. What's the outcome? Dongbua Shuaing even specially came out of closed-door cultivation. The battle is very intense. It has alarmed the entire capital. The royal family and those devils from the Black Devil Great Lake are watching from afar. After the battle, more than half of the Sky Sword Sect Palace has been destroyed. Marquis Chu Ming said. Dongbua Shuang was slightly startled. Since the Sky Sword sect had invaded the fiery Zhao nation, the arrays constructed in this sacred palace in the capital were naturally formidable. It should be on the same level as the Southern Cloud's sacred palace. Ordinary 10th level experts could not break through it, yet more than half the palace was destroyed. Unquestionably, the arrays had been destroyed. If the arrays were intact, it was impossible for the palace to be destroyed. The experts sent by teacher are really powerful. They even destroyed the arrays. Dongbua Shuang sighed inwardly. He understood that the Southern Cloud King would only send experts stronger than the 5 experts sent by the Sky Sword sect. Otherwise, they would be slapping his face. Even though the hidden superpowers were powerful, the Southern Cloud King had several hidden superpowers under him. He could even borrow soldiers from them. It's just that these were not experts from the Southern Cloud's sacred religion, and they could not openly reveal their identities. Some experts who used other cultivation techniques could defeat the Sky Sword sect, but that did not prove that the cultivation technique of the Southern Cloud's sacred religion was outstanding. Hence, this could only be done in the dark by both parties. On the surface, they still needed disciples like Thunder King Mo Chao, Gong Liang Yi, and Yingshan Snow Eagle. After understanding the battle, Dongbua Shuang went back into closed-door cultivation. Even though his understanding of the essence of the void deepened, and he was just a strand away from the final pinnacle of voidification, this strand was no less difficult than breaking through to the Cosmos God realm at the pinnacle of Primal Chaos realm. Dongbua Shuang had never taken this step. He had no choice since it was too difficult for a Primal Chaos expert to reach this stage. Fortunately, he had seen the scaled armor of General Mo Gu before. Otherwise, it would be a dream for him to reach this stage at the Primal Chaos realm. After all, there were only 2 great cultivation techniques in the realm Heart Great Land that could allow a Primal Chaos expert to reach the pinnacle of voidification. One was in the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation. The other was in the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Other ancient nations, including some who had reached an extremely high realm in the void aspect like Southern Cloud King, could not create a cultivation technique that could allow a Primal Chaos expert to reach the pinnacle of voidification. It was hard for him to improve his voidification. Instead, it was Shuang who was improving his 5 phases sealing technique. Ultimately, he only needed to reach small success. 3 months after he was ambushed, it was a very short period. Origin phase. Dongbua Shuang looked at the void in front of him. He lightly waved his hand, causing the essence of the void to be controlled by Dongbua Shuang. Everything was moving according to Dongbua Shuang's will. There were many layers of black cloth. One of the layers of black cloth had many black fog spherical particles rolling about, forming a sphere before forming an enormous cube. "I've finally reached this stage." Dongbua Shuang revealed a grin. The black fog spherical particles were too small and hard to touch. Even when he relied on the Southern Cloud sacred body to execute the arch destruction, he could barely shatter several black fog spherical particles. How difficult was it to control them? He had to rely on the profound mysteries of the void to guide them. Once he mastered this guiding technique, he would have reached small success in the origin phase, reaching the 9th level. Not relying on external materials would mean reaching the pinnacle of Primal Chaos realm. Who? Dongbua Shuang thought. 5 lights appeared in midair above him. They represented 5 different ways of controlling the void. One of the lights was an incomparably heavy black primal chaos. Some were faintly discernible and illusory. Some were like surging waves of the void. Some were like silk or fog, and the last was a dim light. 5 phases sealing technique. Dongbua Shuang revealed a joyous look. If I had mastered it, why would I be afraid of his time domain? The stronger the time domain, the greater the impact it would suffer from. 5 phases sealing technique, that was the most tyrannical and strongest void absolute art of the Southern Cloud sacred religion. If one had the 5 phase beads, he could execute 5 10th level techniques at the same time. By fusing them together, they could form the 5 phases sealing technique. Its power was simply unfathomable and tyrannical. Teacher. Dongbua Shuang immediately contacted Southern Cloud King. Snow Eagle, what's the matter? Southern Cloud King asked. I've mastered the 5 phases sealing technique. Dongbua Shuang said. What? Say it again. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.